Okay, cool. Yeah.
All right, we're recording. All right, today I've got Tye Clark here with me. I knew him as Sergeant Clark back in the day. Tye is from Cold Spring, Texas. Went to school at Liberty University. Joined the Army in 2005 as 11 Bravo infantryman, and was in the military till December 2014. Currently lives in Conroe, Texas, and today he serves as a veteran outreach coordinator at Hero Program, which is that out of Louisiana? Is
Yeah.
that
So Opelousas, Louisiana. Yeah. Just outside of Lafayette.
okay? We're definitely going to dig into that, but
Right.
that'll be a little bit later. Um, just to kind of give folks an idea of who you are, um, or who you are today. Uh, I found this post. I was just kind of scanning through your Facebook before we got started here, and this is just from a couple days ago, August 12th. Shit, it's September now. That's almost a month ago. It's so it goes. Totally did not want to get up this morning to work out. I got a face shouting false motivation. Teething babies make it really hard to get any good sleep. But mama didn't raise no punk. Let's kick today's ass. I've got to grind on those hard days too after 38 years of war, drug addiction, gang affiliated activities, and making it out on the other side alive every single time. God has brought me here to grind harder than I ever had. I can't willingly allow myself to get lazy. If you are a veteran struggling, reach out to me. I will help you. I'll be up in Katy, Texas, and you get the point. That's kind of where you're at, and that's where I've been following you for a long time on
Yeah.
Facebook. I didn't know you for a very long period of time at
Right.
Fort Lewis.
Yeah.
You were second platoon, one of the squad leaders over there,
Yeah.
and we worked together a little bit. Uh, Hold on a second. Tell me if this was you or not. I remember. Were you with me on the detail I was in charge of when John Cena came down and
Yeah, man. Dude, I tell my son about that all the time. How I got to meet him and I walked up and I said he doesn't look that big in real
yes,
life.
that dude,
Yeah.
we all fell out. You were standing
Yeah,
right
dude.
right behind him.
Yeah. And that dude's hand went on my face and I was like, oh shit. I mean, he's
Maybe he is
massive,
big.
dude. Yeah, he's huge. Nicest guy in the world. But yeah, no, that was fun.
He is, but the look he gave because he's getting ready to sign autographs, and
Yeah.
and you're standing right behind him so he can hear you, and he goes, "Man, I thought he'd be bigger." Yeah, John Cena turned around and looked at you with this look. I was like, "Oh shit!"
Yeah, and dude, he was a great sport about it too, man. But I literally had that conversation. So my son Hunter is 14, and I told him, he's like, "You didn't meet John Cena," and I was like, "Not only did I meet him, but I also called him out." And, well, what'd you say? And I said, "Well, he's not that big in real life, and he dwarfed me, I mean,
Yeah,
he's
yeah,
a guy." And then he put his hand on my face and just kind of muffed me like that. Yeah, he could destroy me, dude.
yeah, but it was still hilarious,
Yeah, it was
man.
a great time.
That was fun. All right, so let's go back to the beginning, brother. Did you grow up in Cold Spring, Texas?
I did,
Yep.
man. Yeah. And for those of you that don't know about Cold Spring, Texas, man, not a lot of people do. It's population, not too many. It's primarily farmland, right on Lake Livingston, man. Beautiful, beautiful spot for deer hunting, trailing, anything outdoors. So we've got a ranch out there, very big ranch, man. We run a lot of cows, and so I grew up around cows, pigs, horses, chickens, all that type of stuff, man. It was a great,
That's awesome.
great way
Yeah,
to grow up.
for sure. Do a lot of hunting.
Oh yeah, man. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Any chance
bet.
I got, man. Any chance I got. That's great.
I, I'm getting fired up because it's that time of year out
I
here.
know.
So
I know.
yeah, I'm about to get the dog all ready to go. This
Come
is
on.
yeah, it
You gonna
might
do
be
some
his last year. So
yeah, you gonna do some dove hunting or what?
I didn't. Usually my sons, we get together and we blast a bunch of doves on
Yeah.
September 1st, but
Yeah.
this year we didn't. Um, but here in Ohio, we're kind of limited.
Yeah.
A lot of the habitat has been destroyed
Sure.
for game birds.
Yeah.
So if you want to hunt pheasant, unless you're willing to drive out to Nebraska, South
Yeah.
Dakota, Kansas,
For sure.
for here you got to go to a preserve
Yeah.
where they farm raise them and they release them, and you got to
Right.
do that. And it's kind of like a golf hobby. You got to pay a
Yeah.
membership fee, and you
Yeah.
got to,
More of a hassle than anything, huh?
it's a hassle, but it's like if you want to get outside and hunt with your dog, you kind of got to do it the
For
way they
sure.
do it here. So,
For sure.
but whatever,
Yeah.
I'm gonna do it. So
Yeah.
it is what it is.
Yeah. But no, man, great childhood. just to kind of circle back, loving father and mother, man. I've got, a couple testimonials and bios that are out there. One is posted on our website, for our facility, man, there at Hero. Uh, I mean, I loved it, man. Super blessed. Carried that on through and, graduated high school and, just kind of, it's weird how it all worked too, man. I fought so hard to get away from that small town feel. So tried college out a little bit, initially. Um, Whenever I signed up, and if there's a job scope for college, for me, it was drinking beer and chasing girls, man.
Right.
So, that's really all I did. I didn't take it serious and, wasn't doing too hot. So, uh, looked over and there was the good old Army recruiting station, man.
Had you ever thought about that before, joining the
I
army?
had, man. Like the small town, everyone's super patriotic, man. It's very Christian conservative out in this area. And it's just one of those things that, a lot of sons specific, a lot of sons do. My older brother did. Not a lot of people served in my family. Um, but I looked up to my older brother Patrick quite a bit, man. He went in as a grunt and then uh went over to MP. And every time I saw him come home, man, when I was a kid, he'd be in his class A's and, back then he had to spit shine his boots and all that stuff, man, and come back in his BDUs. And I just
Yeah.
thought he was cool as shit. It was the coolest thing. And he'd pick me up and, I just thought he was so squared away. So, it all, and then you play the army men as a kid and,
Oh,
blow them
yeah.
up with M80s and shoot them with BB guns and
Oh, yeah.
all that stuff, man. Create your own little war scenarios. So,
Mhm.
like the military, you know, I wouldn't even say it was, like a fallback if I didn't like become successful in college or I didn't like college or anything like that. I mean, it would have happened. It was inevitable. Um, just when college wasn't working out, man, I knew that the offers were there to allow for me to, travel the world, man, just kind of get out from the wings of mom and dad and, you
Yeah.
know, get a crash course into adulthood, I guess, man. So
Right. Yeah. Man, I'd say just the brief time I worked with you, you seem like you were, there's some people that just fit in the uniform and it's like it's easy. It's like
yeah,
everything
yeah,
you throw at them, they're just like
yeah,
right on, keep coming. And you were one of
100%, man,
those guys. You were
100%.
just you were a hard charger. You were a good
Yeah.
dude.
And,
Uh,
and I praise my dad a lot for that, man, because growing up, it was work all the time, living on a ranch, man. If something was broke, we fixed it. We didn't, we didn't call somebody in or send it to a dealership, man. We were always working and whatnot. And, just baling hay, cutting hay, working fence, working cows, things like that, Sunday through Sunday, and then going to church and all that. There was that routine, right? So whenever I got in the military and especially basic and AIT, man, it was, dude, I ate it, I mean, it was just, you tell me to run longer, I'm going to run longer and faster. You tell me to do more push-ups and I'm going to do more than you think I can, one of those types of things. But I needed it. I needed that swift kick in the ass too,
mhm.
but I also loved it. Took as
So
much
where
out of it as I could get.
so when I met you, you were at the end of your career with the
Correct.
military. So
Yeah.
where all did what all did you do before I met you at Fort Lewis?
Yeah, man. So I did 7 years in Hawaii.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, a few deployments over to Iraq there. So we were there during the second siege of Sadr City, Tarmiya, Iraq. Um, things like that. It got pretty rough and tough. And then when I came actually over to Fort Lewis after that, I mean, it was a two duty station, enlistment for 10 years, close to 10 years. Um, I was at my tail end, but when I came to JBLM, man, it was a great unit. It's just everything was kind of starting to tone down to Garrison Army.
Yes.
And for me, that early on in my career to be exposed to wartime, I was a setup NCO specifically for that, and it's just one of those things, man. I tell guys all the time, I'm like, either you love it or you hate it. I loved it, and it's not like I was wanting to go over there and just die overseas, right? But it's where I felt most at home. Um, so yeah, no, I was at my tail end, 7 years in Hawaii, close to 3 years in Washington there, and
Are you cool with talking about some of your experiences in Iraq?
yeah, 100%, man, 100%.
So your first
Uh,
time you went two separate tours?
Correct. Yeah. Uh, the first time we went during it was OIF 2007 through 2009, and we went to Camp Taji. Our objective at that point in time was to cover an AO along the Dayala province, which is right there on the Tigris River.
Yes.
And we were supposed to be interceptors for, insurgents crossing the Tigris and bringing, IED making materials and things like that over there. But also there was intel that got pushed to us that, insurgents were going to poison the water treatment system. So they moved us out to the water treatment center, and that was basically our, I guess, our fob for quite some time. So we would do operations out of there. They kind of threw us everywhere, man, because that was a real weird time. And then the second siege of Solder City popped up. For those that don't know, it was a pretty horrific, bloody endeavor, especially for you tanker guys too, man. And so they sent our company out there to be attached to 2 SCR, first Cav, and then they had a Ranger unit out there, doing some pretty high speed shit too. But basically, what that siege was is they put so Muqtada al-Sadr, right, had the Jaysh al-Mahdi, which is basically his militia that was attached to him, and it's kind of ironic, he's the financial advisor for the government that's instilled out there right now. But anyway, he wasn't a good guy then, and I guarantee he's not a good guy now. Well, he spun off as a militia, and I can't remember what the antics were in regards to like why it all happened, but he started lobbing mortars and whatnot over into the green zone there in Baghdad and stuff like that. And we had a bunch of CIA and whatnot, there. And so they spun everybody up. We went out there and they said, "Hey, we're going to lock these guys in there, and either they're gonna give up and
Yeah, he had
surrender."
thousands. He had
Yeah, dude.
thousands of guys in that militia.
And it switches. I tell people all the time because this is kind of what I was told. Um, we did a little rant brief. We didn't know anything. Really, kind of what was going on. I was just fuck, man. I was a 19-year-old private, PFC at that point in time, and really hadn't seen any combat whatsoever. Right, trained like hell. Right, so we were bona fide killers. We just didn't know it yet. But we went up there and we kind of attached everybody, right? So the T barriers have already been set. There was a lot of sniper fire and stuff like that. There's a movie too about the sniper guy. Chris Kyle was in there,
Yes.
like combating that sniper and stuff like that. So that was kind of going on while we were having this rant brief. But we went and attached everybody at JSS Slaughter City, and just a shitload of strikers, tanks, Humvees, all this stuff, man. Probably, there's probably about 1,000 of us sitting in there, and just a bunch of kids, And the command sergeant major for 2 SCR came up, and it was one of those like real gritty conversations that he had, hyping us up like right before a football game or something like that. He said, basically look to your buddies to your left and your right, because one of you guys may not be coming home, so you gotta tear ass and do what you got to do, and do what's best for that individual sitting to your left and your right, regardless if they're in the same unit or not, because we're about to go into the shit, and that was the first time I ever heard the shit. And so, man, I was ready. And I was like I said, man, 19-year-old saw gunner. Uh, we tore ass. We had our objective to push up to this, certain route. I think that was Route Gold. Everybody's objective was to kind of push forward, fight, continuously fight, come back and refit, right there at JSS Solder City, and then keep pushing. And every time we'd come back and refit, they would move into Abrams and Bradleys and whatnot to kind of hold our line. And then we'd go up there and establish a observation point and continuously push forward until we reached our objective, right, which is the very end. And
Right.
then it's these, undisclosed routes, but, thinking on it now, man, they were just trying to get us to kill everybody,
In the
that we
city.
could. There's so many of them,
Yeah.
and we got chewed up there at first, getting experience to, what war really was, because a lot of guys never really witnessed that,
Sure.
they
Yeah.
deploy over there, and, I'm not talking down on anybody that deploys. I think everybody, goes looking for it, but a lot of soldiers, man, don't experience the shit,
You're
right?
right. Yeah.
Um,
A very small percentage. Yeah.
Yeah, they go over there, they get smacked by an IED, they get mortar shot at them, and it's all traumatizing, right? So, to some, but and they see things, right? But being in something like that, man, it was toe to toe, right? We weren't like fixing bayonets or anything like that, man. But when you're annihilating six, seven, eight, nine, 10 guys on one engagement, and you're a 19-year-old kid, and I
Right.
mean, there's just so many snap rounds coming past you and things like that, man. And then it's like, all right, let's take a break, drink some water, eat an MRE, and then go do it again.
Yeah.
Um, it
Damn.
was and we did that day in and day out, man, for 68 days. And then finally, man, McDowell al-Sadr ended up pushing out, and I can't remember where he fled to.
Probably
But
Iran.
yeah, but the insurgents had had enough, right? So we tore ass and um, you know, inflicted enough damage on them, man, that there wasn't many left. It was just one of those things. And I don't know if to this day those T barriers are still up or any of that stuff, man. But it was hellacious, and that was probably the worst engagement that I had ever been in, right? So after that, we were battle hardened. So kind of like, and it was General Petraeus at that point in time
Right.
was that,
The surge period.
yeah, that AO kind of commandant, you know.
Hmm.
And so he was pretty much kind of tasking us because we were the ones that were kind of doing the hard fighting, and not just us, right? Our company, and then 2SCR, and the tankers that were over there and stuff like that. So he was kind of, if there was shit that was popping off anywhere in our like region of Diyala, he was like, okay, now y'all go over there because y'all know how to fight. Basically, we've proven
Right.
ourselves.
That was a
So
very interesting time. I know a lot of guys that were on that ground the same time you were,
yeah,
guys that were on strikers, guys that were on tanks,
yeah,
and they were saying that Petraeus would just show up,
yeah,
like physically show up, like
yeah,
right there to a ramp brief
yeah,
and be like, "All right, you guys are about to go in, man, and you guys got
yep.
this." Blah blah blah, and it's just like, wow. I mean, was
Dude,
I can't remember.
I got a coin from him, right?
That's
So,
awesome. Was he a
you
three
know,
or four star at the time?
at that time, no, at that time he was a 4 star.
4 star. Yeah,
Yeah. Uh, but I got a coin from him. And he was probably one of the coolest dudes, man.
I
Of
agree.
course, I was, kind of like you said at that time, I was super squared away, sitting there locking up at attention, saluting and everything. And I always did that too. I held military bearing really well. But when you see a freaking 4 star general, man, you kind of shit yourself.
A little bit.
Yeah, those are your heroes. Those are the guys that are making all this happen, and your little minute self that really can't grasp what all goes into that stuff, man. You're like, holy fuck, like this guy can
Yeah.
make or break my ass, man. Anyway, he came up, man, and said, relax. He's just talking to us, and I think it was coming out of the chow hall. He walked with us up to the MWR, and he said, hey, you guys, getting a good rest, or how are things out there in theater? Um, things like that. I said, oh, great, sir. This, that, the other,
Yeah.
and
And what else are you gonna tell him? It
yeah, and
fucking
he's sitting
sucks.
there and he, kind of puts his finger up there and he's like, you need a haircut, Roger that, sir, But he gave me a coin, man. I still have that to this day. And but I was like, man, that is the coolest fucking thing. And then you see him on the news and stuff, and
Right.
you
He
know,
got a bad rap afterwards, when he get
he
involved in
did.
politics and everything
He
else.
did.
But back in
Yeah.
those times,
Yeah.
Petraeus was a hero to most of us in the
Yeah,
army.
buddy. He was there, man, kind of like what you were saying. And he wasn't scared.
No.
Um, but yeah, it was a pretty good time. And then Tarmia, man, after Solder City was a whirlwind of you know, kind of what the fuck, in my opinion. We went out there and uh, lost a guy to a suicide vest, right? And that was a big thing out there. And Tarmia at that time was called the I-80 capital of the world. And, we were a striker unit. So ICVs were not real good friends to IEDs, man. I mean, it was good kind of being like, in something, right? But, when you got 8 tires and you're a big block, rolling down an alleyway, you're an IED magnet, man. So we had a pretty hellacious time there. And then finally for rest and relaxation, right? They moved us back to that water plant until we got relieved by a reserve unit. We came home. But yeah, that was a 15-month tour.
Yeah, that's when those long ones had just
Yeah.
started.
Pretty
Yeah,
good
those
time though. I enjoyed it.
wow.
And then
So
everything after that was pretty lax, man. You go over there and get smacked by an IED, get an RPG shot at you every once in a while, but sporadic fire. But it
right.
was nothing compared to that.
No, there was only a few big fights like that. Solder City, Fallujah, Ramadi.
Yeah.
maybe some stuff down in Najaf.
For
There
sure.
was not a whole lot of direct fire engagements.
Yeah.
It was mainly IEDs, but
Yeah.
yeah. So to be involved in one of those is a pretty big freaking deal.
Yeah. I
One
mean,
of
it was,
those sieges.
and it's an honor, man,
Yeah,
to even say that, that type of hard fighting was an honor, but that's what you sign up for, dude. That's what I signed up for. I can't speak for everybody, but, all that training really got put to good use. And it really made me sit there and respect, um, that chain of command, man, from the bottom down, from the private to the senior enlisted too, because seeing how everybody just kind of comes together and works, um, being that early on as a private first class specialist, this, that, and the other, man, it set me up for a very, very good time, when I became an NCO, right? So, um, I had great leadership, right? Great squad leaders, great platoon sergeant, great team leaders, and all that type of stuff, man. And I knew that those guys would take a bullet for me any second of the day. And when we're in there, and of course, as a kid, you get to a point in those engagements that, for me, I get filled with so much hate, right? So it kind of like that hypothetical switch just kind of triggers,
yes,
and you don't really think about living or dying, but um, you're full of so much hate because either you lose a buddy or, you know, uh, for me, it was a mixture of both, right? Like we lost good people over there, and but also like deep down inside, I did not want to kill you. So why are you so stupid to come against me so that I have to kill you? It's just
right.
one of those things, man. And but I had, like I said, man, really good leadership that led me to be a good soldier in combat, man. And that's really all you ask for, right? And, they didn't
Yeah.
cower. They always had the right, answers. They were able to, know when to call for fire, things like that, man. Setting up CCPs and, I mean, just all sorts of stuff. But another side that I saw that was great with that leadership then was how well we took care of, the wounded Iraqis.
Yeah.
I saw a lot of, like, we weren't there just to slay and pray, right? We were there to complete a task. Unfortunately in war, man, collateral damage is imminent, right? And people say, well, they should have left, right? Well, dude, I mean,
Some people can't.
yeah, well, not only that, if someone is in my backyard
Right.
and I'm in my house with all my stuff, dude, I'm not going to want to leave either, bro.
Nope.
It's going to be, is what it is. And we'd go set up like, observation points and whatnot, man, and be a whole family in there, just bunkered down. And they weren't doing anything bad. There's wives, kids, daughters, sons. I mean, just all sorts of stuff in there, man. And, but these kids would have all this shrapnel wound, and this older gentleman would get, popped or something like that, whether he was shooting at us or not, man. Our medics and our leadership would go in there and apply tourniquets, and we'd help them and get them out of that zone pretty quick. So that was really cool to see that part too. Um, anyhow,
It,
yeah,
yeah, it's wild. That's a wild thing about war and being in a battle. I mean, you can go from 1 second taking out a dude, another
yeah,
second seeing one of your buddies get hit, and then
yeah,
the next minute you're treating a Iraqi civilian.
yeah, yeah,
Oh, and it's all happening all at the same
yeah,
time, and it's all these different emotions and everything
yeah,
else. It's just, yeah,
yeah,
it's crazy stuff. I could tell when I met you or when I observed you guys, you squad leaders.
yeah.
I could tell that you, at least in, I don't know for whatever reason, I seem like I worked around second platoon a lot more than
You
the
did,
other first
you
and
did, like
third.
especially during FTXs and stuff like that, man. We were always
Yeah,
together.
we were always kind of get together. So I saw you guys a lot, and I could tell, like you specifically, I could tell that you had a good upbringing in the army. Because you can just tell a squad leader that didn't have good NCOs above
For
him
sure.
when he makes squad leader, he's usually not the best,
Yeah, no,
and
I was
it's
I was blessed, man. Super blessed.
yeah. Yeah, were you there, man? I hate to ask this question, um, but I was thinking about other interactions that you and I may have had. Uh, the National Training Center, you may have not been in the, you may have left before this. Did you go to NTC with us
I
out of
did go to
Fort Little?
NTC, yeah. Yeah, that was, because I was supposed to start my ACAP and all that type of stuff, and then I kinda just made the call. We didn't have a position filled yet for, my squad leader position. And I had a very squared away platoon sergeant then and there.
Yes,
But
you
we were
did.
finally at a point of really good leadership across the board, in our platoon. And I was like, dude, I'm going to go. I'm not going to leave my guys high and dry. Granted, I could take the easy street and just sit on my ass and drink beer and go to ACAP and, these appointments and stuff, or I can go do my fucking job and train my guys because I don't know where you guys are going after this. Right. So I'm going to get out and just wish you well. No, I'm going to make sure these guys are trained well, so I did attend that NTC rotation.
That's awesome of you to do that because you're absolutely right. You're that short, you didn't have to go to
Right.
NTC.
Yeah.
And NTC, as far as training goes, is probably one of the more challenging training
It
events you're
is.
going to,
It is. It's a
outside
big
of
time.
war.
Yeah.
It's one of the more challenging ones.
Yeah.
So, were you there that night that the accident happened and that young soldier was killed?
Yeah, I mean, not like right by it, right? But no, we were there, uh, and the very unfortunate accident. You're talking about like where you got ran over, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Where we were at, we were kind of like, and I mean, like I'm saying, we weren't there, but we were there, right? So we were pushed out. It was during where everyone kind of just winded down, right? Went out for night, and what happened was this guy. I mean, but for everybody else, this guy ended up bedding down, uh, and then we all got spun up the following morning. And no, we did a night mission.
Yeah,
That's what we did. We did a night mission, and we were all rolling. We were all blackout, which we're using infrared and nods and all that type of stuff. Well, anyway, this kid, and he was a private too. I can't remember his face right now, but was basically sleeping underneath that striker in between two of the wheels in the middle wheels, right? Because I mean that's what people
oh,
did. Yeah,
yeah,
we're getting out of the rain, we're getting out of the snow, and I'm sure it was raining or something then. That's why he probably did it. There wasn't really a good accountability. Everybody was tired, this, that, and the other. It was one of those stress engagements too, like, hey, spin up, let's go. Anyway, he got ran over and died,
yeah,
and it was very unfortunate. And so the way that it was broke up is we were another platoon over. And when you're in those uh, scenarios, you kind of treat it like you would in combat, right? So we weren't all clumped together. We had a pretty big half moon, uh, you know, perimeter, right? So we were probably about 150 yards from that, but we heard all the commotion and whatnot. It was a pretty sad ordeal, but it happens, man. Unfortunate
yeah.
as that is, right? It happens.
Well, so that's already the scenario is different than what I had originally was reported to me. I was told you guys were moving through an area and the guy was bedded down and typically when you bed down at the National Training Center, the one thing that you don't do, in combat you would never mark your sleeping area with chem lights.
Right.
But typically at the National Training Center, because vehicles are moving at nighttime,
Yeah.
there should be like designated sleeping areas with chem
Yeah.
lights
Absolutely. Absolutely.
so infantry guys don't get run over.
Yeah.
And then the one thing you never do is you never sleep under a damn vehicle. That's like I know it's the place you really want to
Yeah, man.
go,
You
but
know, well, and that just all falls, again, I think that was when people get tired, they make very shitty, uh,
decisions. Yeah,
decisions. Yeah, man. And so, for me, man, as a squad leader, I'm going to make sure I know where all my guys are and this,
sure.
that, and the other. Not only that they know where they are. Everyone knows where their buddy is and stuff, but, also I don't care if it's uncomfortable, man. You're gonna bed down sitting straight up inside that striker, or
Yeah,
on the ramp or something like that. But I think it was a piss poor decision made by his first line and this, that, and the other. But it was just a sad,
yeah. It's
circumstance,
awful. Yeah, it's
for
terrible.
a kid losing his life, man. Through accident. But
I
big
know.
army, man, stuff like that happens all the time, and it's unfortunate. That's still
I
a
know
heartbreak.
your platoon sergeant was devastated, and the driver
Yeah,
of that vehicle, he was devastated by the
yeah,
entire event. It was just an awful circumstance all the way around for an otherwise pretty successful NTC rotation,
yeah,
you know. But yeah, I didn't know if you were still there for that or not. That
yeah,
was
yeah,
a buddy of mine was talking about how we were never able to go to an NTC without at least one person dying.
yeah, yeah.
It's just
You know, or we'd have I remember one time, man, like the first time, just having a guy like so badly heat cat, um, He ended up having some brain damage or something like that. I mean, it's just it's stuff happens, right? And
Yeah, for sure.
you're kind of getting pushed to that limit. For those that don't know, like the National Training Center is there to basically set you up for a deployment, right? It certifies you to move to that next level, basically a sign off. Um, I equate it to like pre-ranger and ranger school. Like pre-ranger is a little bit tougher.
Right.
So that when you go to ranger school, you're ready for anything, right?
Yeah.
NTC is kind of set up like that. So when you get tired and you're thinking about, you're some kid, man, you don't know what all's going on, so you make those stupid decisions. But accountability is a huge thing, and
Sure is.
unfortunately, man, sometimes it just falls short.
Yep, and they make it as hard as they can make it without actually shooting bullets at you,
Yeah,
so,
yeah, for sure.
sleep deprivation, and it's probably the worst weather
That's it, man.
ever.
That's it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they
yeah,
purposely find the places to train that are, like, the shittiest places in America.
absolutely, absolutely.
So, yeah, I always thought of NTC as kinda like the playoffs right before the Super Bowl, with the Super Bowl being combat.
Yeah,
It's like, you gotta
uh,
check this block before you can get to the Super Bowl,
yeah.
so
Because I mean, if you even really factor in like what comes before that, man, a shitload of FTXs there on base, and then we had uh
you got your gunneries and all that.
yeah, but what's the place that we went to out there in Washington? Yakima, dude. Oh,
Uh-oh.
that place sucked, man. Yeah, I went there one time. No, yeah, I went there one time, and I mean, they send you out there when it's just like 5, 6 foot of fucking snow, man, and you're
Yes.
clearing a bunker, and that place really tested my ability. I've never done any type of
I
combat.
had no idea
So,
that Washington State west of the Rockies is a
yeah,
beautiful place.
it is. It is.
You go east of the mountains though, and
Yeah.
it's an absolute shithole.
Oh, dude, it's brutal. Yeah.
It is awful. It
Yeah.
is so cold up there. I had no idea. Like Yakima was probably I've been in some cold places in
Yeah.
the army, but Yakima that winter, that gunnery we did before National Training Center was
Yeah.
probably the coldest
Yeah.
winter
And dude,
I've
it
ever
fucked me up as a
experienced.
Texas boy, I mean, I never
Yeah.
could be ready from that. And I always said, you hear the getting screwed by the green weenie, right? It's like, I got blessed with 7 years in Hawaii, dude. So
Yes,
here
you
you go,
did.
man. Yeah.
Yes, you
I need
did.
to earn my way here in Washington now, but it was a good time, man. We made the best of it. Just sucked.
So what was your second, tour to Iraq like? Was it, as eventful as the first?
No, 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 no. We got smacked by a few IEDs. Like I said, man, sporadic small arms fire and stuff like that. Usually like for some I always say, man, like from either SF babies or you know, pissed off insurgents that survived, our first rotation. But it wasn't bad, man. The good thing about that was we really got and at first I hated this, right? Because I was still kind of battle ridden. Um we took the hearts and minds aspect, right? So our job there, bless you,
Yep,
our
thank you.
job there was to go and build schools and make sure people had what they needed, running water, this, that, the other, man, kind of like a humanitarian aid.
Right.
So I enjoyed that side of it as well. I was just bored as fuck, man.
Sure.
Like it's a good thing, right? But in my opinion, I'm like, send the fucking reserves in for this, like do
Yeah.
that. Like, find us a fight, dude. And
Yeah, we're trained killers. We should be
yeah,
hand
man. I was like, I
why
want to go out. Yeah, I want to go
why am I
fight,
handing out
man.
soccer balls?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, seriously.
Yeah.
And we started and I don't know if this is well, I'm out, dude. But my first rotation, we would have um like drop weapons just loaded,
Yeah. Oh,
and,
yeah.
but you know, in case we would if for major reasons, in case we ran out of ammo, man, you pick up an AK and you just start blasting an AK. And yes, we would always turn those in. We didn't, take them out or anything like that. But the second rotation, those AKs were gone and ammo was gone. And like you said, it was soccer balls, frisbees,
Yep.
books and crowns and all this stuff, man. But
Hearts and minds.
yeah, dude, but it was super cool, man. I ate a lot of good chicken and rice and goat and
Nice.
kebabs and all that. I got fat that deployment.
Yeah. Oh, the Iraqi people are good people.
They are.
You
They
know,
are.
it's and most of the people we were fighting were either foreign fighters or fanatics, like the guys you were
100%.
dealing with in, Sadr
Yeah.
City.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
those guys were psychos.
Dude, they moved us like so far north. We went to this place called Sham Shamal. And it was gorgeous, man. I'd never seen that part of Iraq before. It almost had like a sense of Afghanistan. You know, it was a super hilly and mountainy and all that stuff. And our objective towards the later end of my tour was to train the Pesh, right? The Peshmerga.
Right, right.
So we built and established kind of like this training school for them in they would bring a battalion at a time, and we were basically making, and for those that don't know, that's just Iraqi army guys, right? So there's Sunni and Shia and all this type of stuff. Well, anyway, this was a specific tribe of soldiers. They kind of stuck together, and they came up there and they would stay in that academy or school, and we were basically training them to be like the Iraqi version's special operations, So we, running them through, yes, our battle drills and making sure they were, good enough to actually, and they weren't great, right? But to do these things without shooting each other, and so that was a pretty cool experience. It's just trying to get those dudes to, synchronize like jumping jacks or any of that stuff, man, or stand in a formation or show up, right? Well, one cool thing to kind of follow up with that is we were out there, right? Well, that was when the Peshmerga, no, the Sunni and the Shia had this big, almost kind of like almost civil war breakout, right? So they were trying to figure out um, who was going to be the occupancy of Kirkuk, which is, that's their capital, right? So, the Sunnis said, "Hey, we were here." The Shia said, "Hey, we were here," and they were just trying to, anyway. So at that point in time, they had, a pretty established, unit between the two of them, like T-72 tanks and all that type of shit. And they had Humvees and all that, but just like thousands of dudes. Well, uh, we got word because our guys, because even at that you know uh, in Sham Shamal, we had guard towers and all that type of stuff, and our unit was there, and we still ran it like we were gonna receive, uh, fire at any time and go out there and fight like how we always had. But um, our guys pop smoke, like our Pesh that we were training, like pop smoke, and they were going to like what they called this front line, to either be on the Sunni or the Shia side. And so I had a first sergeant there at one point in time. Came out and said, "Hey, we're going to spin off, man. We're going to go out there and we're going to kind of get in the middle of them to make sure that not one fire or one round is fired and civil war breaks out." Right. And I was like, "All right, cool." So I was kind of going and itching, for a fight still even then.
Mhm.
But we get all of our strikers and we pull up right in the middle. And I'm telling you, man, it was the scariest shit. So I had done a lot up to that point in my military career. And I'd never been so scared, man, to see just fucking tank barrels on either side just aiming at each other, and soldiers just, they had dugout hooches and, all sorts of stuff, man. Well, anyway, again, back to really good leadership, man. My first sergeant um, got out of the striker, man, and I'm going to go ahead and say exactly what he said. He's like, "Hey, motherfuckers, bring in your leadership on both sides and meet me in the middle."
Nice.
Yeah, dude. I mean, just saying they're aiming guns and they're just like, "Oh, interpreter yells it out. He's like, "I want you to say it just like how I said it." And I'm like, all right. So these two Humvees come in, right? And they have both their flags up and everything like that. And they come and they meet in the middle. And he said, "I want all of our RWS systems on top of our strikers to traverse, right?" So we had half of us aimed at one side and half of us aimed at the other side. And then we all got out at Half Moon. And, half of the company was aimed at one side and half of the other company, or half of the company was aimed at the other side.
Yeah.
Well, he went out there, man, and he just fucking started digging into them, man, just yelling at both sides, right? They're, and I don't know if they were colonels or generals or whatever, man. I could never really tell what their little fucking,
Yeah, I couldn't either.
yeah, shoulder sleeves, their rank or whatever.
Yeah.
But he's lighting them up, right? Well, all I remember is him saying, "One fucking round is fired. We're gonna unleash hell on both of you," and I don't know if he really thought that was going to happen. He didn't seem scared at all. So therefore I didn't seem scared at all. I was like, man, if we're going to die, we're going to do this, but we're going to take as many of them out as we can. And, anyway, he just kept going at him and the interpreter followed up, in Iraqi and, or Arabic, and they both went their separate ways. And so first sergeant came up And he said, "Everybody stand fast, man. Like everybody go on red. Everybody should be on red at this point, but everybody go on red, dude, because I mean, one way or the other, dude." And I was like, "Oh, fuck."
Oh,
And I'm
damn.
just sitting there just lined up, man. And
Yeah.
everybody's just kind of talking, hyping each other up. And I think the Iraqis heard that shit, man. We're like, "Book yeah, let's get it." Well, must have intimidated him, man, because next thing you know, you just see those the top turrets on those T-72s just kind of go to the side.
Nice.
Everything just kind of lines up, dude. But that was the most badass shit, dude.
Woo!
Every time I see like Rome battles and stuff like that, in documentaries and whatnot, how they're just kind of like sitting there just by the thousands. It
Yeah.
wasn't like that extreme, but to me it felt like that.
Oh, yeah, for
And
sure.
and we're stuck in the middle and they were so scared of our company, that battalions worth of Shia and Sunni were like, nah, fuck that. We're not
Good.
we're not going against those motherfuckers.
Yeah.
So that was a pretty cool experience.
I think it's kinda hard to for people that haven't been there to understand how much they hate each other.
Yeah. Yeah.
They
It's
don't
it's
see
tribal.
themselves yeah, they don't
It,
see themselves as Iraqis.
no.
They see themselves first and foremost as what their tribe and their
Yep.
Sunni or Shia.
Yeah.
That's number 1 to them.
Yeah, and it's really hard kind of for us to understand. Later on after my military, I really started to process and kind of look back at all that, right? Well, um, and still to this day, it's really hard to understand. But dude, that stuff goes back before, BC, right? So I mean, these tribes that were accumulated in the Arabic nation, um, they were all friends at one point in time, right? But then life happens and this and that, and territories are taken and wars are fought and this, that, and the other. And then we come in and say, "Hey, be friends." Like, no,
Yeah, that's
motherfucker, we're
not
not gonna
gonna
do it.
happen.
I mean,
Yeah.
and I don't think it will ever happen, which kind of just goes along with a lot of these third world countries that we try to go in and instill government. You just can't do it, dude.
No, and then when we start just arbitrarily drawing lines and saying,
Yeah,
"Okay, this is Iraq, this is
yeah,
Iran,"
yep,
and completely forget about the ethnic lines and
yeah,
where those lines should really be drawn at,
right,
you know? It's like the Kurds, the Peshmerga you're dealing with up there in the north, they still don't have a country of their own, and I honestly think that your training, did wonders for them because
yeah.
they held their own against ISIS,
Oh, 100%,
you
100%.
know?
And because it was, I mean, dude, I mean, we're talking about just a few years after we, you know, pushed out or pulled out, after that continuous force of, showing protection and this, that, and the other. I mean, we were training those guys. Iraqi army and IPs, Iraqi police would push it even in with us during Sadr City, and they were trash. Like they go in, one round would get fired, and they were popping smoke.
On. Yep.
And so we were like, all right, dude, we're gonna keep going. And I remember Captain Beef, man, was our CO, even there in Sadr City, and he's like, basically listening to talking to their captain, or whatever. He's like, listen here, motherfucker, I got as many dudes as you do. Like if we can do it, you can do it. And it was just, we're trying to just forcefully show them that you can do what we're doing, right? So all along the Iraq war, and that's what, people that haven't been there don't understand. We were trying to not be there, you know?
Yes.
We were
Yeah, we
trying to
were.
do what was needed to allow for them to do it, because what follows along in Muslim culture is, a lot of tribal wars, right? So, but you can hope and pray that a good tribe gets in there, right? But that's usually never the case, man. This regime that is spun up and is going to do bad to others, specifically Christians and this, that, and the other. Um, they're the ones that are going to take control because they're the most ruthless, right? So
Yeah.
basically, we were trying to make the good guys just as ruthless to be able to kind of like, do what they need to do so we didn't have to do it.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's the politics there are just we can't wrap our head around it. We
No.
can't go in there and take a country like that and try to make it westernized.
Yeah.
They've and then, some countries they only recognize strong leaders.
Yeah.
They only recognize authoritarians.
Yeah.
And the whole idea of democracy and everything else is just like,
Yeah.
what the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah. Well,
You
and
know?
plus they felt so protected with us being there, you know.
Mhm. Yeah.
We didn't have a hell of a whole lot of hate, right? So uh, the way that a lot of those tribes looked, especially the tribal leaders, was, hey, the Americans are here, they got us, we're fucking good, dude. We can kind of sit on our ass. And and I feel that they got used to that.
I
because the
agree.
Iraq War was a long war, dude.
Yeah.
Um, and they got used to that. But like you said, man, I mean, everything worked out. The good thing was, that someone way higher than me um, deemed it necessary for us to train those guys. And you're right, dude. They kicked the shit out of ISIS, man. It was great.
Yeah. Yeah, they were really good.
Yeah.
So guys like you, I always hate seeing, like, the guys like me that were just, I know I'm stuck in the army. I'm staying in
Yeah.
the army for 20
Yeah.
years, and I saw so many guys like you get out
Hmm.
mid-career
Yeah.
and saying, "Not for me. I'm done, guys. Deuces." And, obviously I'm not going to sit there and say all the trash stays in for 20,
Yeah.
because I'm
Yeah.
not going
Well,
to
yeah.
call them,
No, for sure.
but
For
it's
sure.
like you hate to see really solid squared away guys get out. So what was your thought process in that calculation?
Man,
Why'd you get out?
yeah. So to kind of circle back to the beginning of this episode when we first started talking about my service, man, I just wasn't a garrison NCO, dude. I couldn't do
Okay.
it.
Yeah.
Like not that I didn't love the army. I absolutely love the army, and I'm super proud and honored and humbled to be able to do what I did. But and I love my guys, but I don't know. I was looking at that last enlistment, dude. So I was either going to be a lifer, I was coming up right at my 10 years and I didn't have any like, 3 years or whatever. So it was either my last enlistment and stay in for 20 or get out right now and go figure it out, and chase the almighty dollar on the civilian side. And so I chose to do that, man, simply because I think that I wouldn't have enjoyed it. And in the back of my mind, I always think like I never want to like hold any type of resentment towards something that I've grown to love so much. And I was a warfighter, man.
That makes a
Whenever,
lot of sense because I don't think you would have enjoyed the Garrison
nah,
Army. It's a totally different army, and
yeah,
it's my first 4 or 5 years was Garrison, and then it was war after that
yeah,
until the last couple years. Like, yeah, right around the time that you got out
for
is
sure.
when we kind of started to shift back into the Garrison mentality, and
Yeah,
it's for people that aren't used to it, it's not it's not what you signed up for. It
yeah.
really
I
is.
mean, and I don't know. I don't know. I think, it's just I didn't know anything other than, you know, uh, coming back from a deployment, prepping for a deployment, and deploying, right? And
Right.
those three phases. And then when they kind of started to kind of exclude one of those phases, so basically you were going to be in um, what is it, sustaining phase, and then preparation phase, and then back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, and there was no deployment thrown in there. I was like, man, my time's up, dude. You know,
Yes. And you do the same exact script over and over again with a new platoon leader and a new captain.
yeah, yeah, it's
And
rough,
it's like, and they have never done this before, but you just did it. And you're
right,
going through it again and again and again.
right.
Yeah. It's a never ending cycle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and I mean, luckily, man, I liked ended off where I ended off, right? So, I was again super blessed, dude, with a phenomenal platoon leader, phenomenal CO, phenomenal first sergeant, all the way up to the top. Like
I
I
totally
mean,
agree.
yeah, dude. And so my unit became, there was some work, right? There towards the end, I came in and I was like, you motherfuckers are not ready for. So, I came in and but we did what was needed, and in a chain of command like that, you kind of either get I like to say the green light, yellow light, or red light of, training your guys, right? The red light meaning, let's just hold fast and, you know, just go clean weapons or something like that. The yellow light is like, yeah, you have some leeway here. You guys can go out and do this or do that. Or you have the green light, right? Where your chain of command is scheduling field exercise after field exercise after field exercise. You're going to the range all the time. You're doing this, that, and the other. And I mean, that last unit, dude, we were squared the fuck away. I mean, you'd come home for 2 weeks and then you were gone for a week, and you would come home for a week and you were gone for a week. But in those down times, man, we were doing, all sorts of shit.
Yeah.
We were living at the
It,
range, man.
yeah. It was fun. I liked it. It was one of the best units I've ever been a part of. And I agree
Yeah.
with you
Yeah.
from the battalion commander all the way down. I mean, it
For sure.
was 117 infantry was a solid
Yeah.
unit.
And
And
I knew it, man. I
I
knew it when
loved
we were
our
just,
first sergeant. Our first sergeant, our
yeah.
commander were both amazing.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I knew it the second I pulled up, man. And, it's my first PT formation. And they were like, you know what? We're going to fucking run a 17 miler, 18 miler. I was like, ah, shit, coming from Hawaii. And smoking 2 packs of cigarettes a day, man. I was like, this is gonna fucking tear me up, dude. But then I went in there and you don't see many guys falling out. So I'm like, okay, well, this is a physically fit, fucking unit. And but it was like that all the time, man. PT was a huge fucking thing. And then we get in there and these guys know fucking battle drills, man. They know, just absolutely everything. There's guys going to the board. There's continuously
Yeah.
guys going to ranger school and PRP and, all
Yes.
that. And if slots are available for units, only the squared away units fucking get those slots, right? So I was
Right.
like, yeah, this is good. This is good.
Yeah. It was definitely solid. It was definitely a good time. So what happened after you got out? So I see drug addiction in there, and
Yeah, man. So,
were you partying a lot while you were in active duty?
I mean, drinking, going to the bars and stuff like that, man. No, what happened was, I had a pretty squared away plan, right, for what was going to happen whenever I got out. So I had a oil field job lined up in northern Oklahoma. Um, you know, didn't really have much of a downtime because in my mind I'm like, idle hands lead to evil thoughts. So I need to get out and stay consistent and go get my job, make a whole bunch of money, right? But what I didn't really factor in is I had never experienced the civilian side in a sense as an adult, right? Joining the military at 18, with my little time of college and stuff like that, man, I didn't know really what all being an adult as a civilian really entailed, right? So, um, I got out, man, and hit the ground running with a whole bunch of stupid, because apparently, even in the oil field, man, getting in a fist fight with your working company, man, over a disagreement, is not a good thing, man. You'll end up in handcuffs, and so I never really fed in or fit in. Um, I got tired of people's not only lack of knowledge, but lack of give a shit. There was no work ethic. There was this, that, and the other. And I mean, there was. I just wasn't seeing it then because I was still so stuck
Yes, I know.
in
I know
in my
exactly
military
what you mean.
service. And I was
Yep.
like, you're over here fucking bitching and complaining about running out of fucking gas. You should have put gas in your fucking car yesterday to get here on time, this, that, and the other. And they were like, you can't talk to people like that. And I said, I'll knock this motherfucker out. And I'd end up getting in front of HR and, hey, you got to get out of here, man. You can't say that stuff. All right, roger that.
Wow.
Make a long story short, man, after multiple failed attempts in the workforce, I found solace in, this criminal organization that I ended up kind of meeting, at a bar and, started kind of dabbling around with some substances and stuff that, made me feel good and whatnot. But also looking back on it now, I was having extreme anger issues, man. Uh, I was probably getting in a fist fight or having run-ins with the law, man. Uh, every week, if not every other week. And so that really kind of made me look good to the different crowd, right? So yeah, man, I joined this criminal organization. For private reasons, I'm not going to really, blast out who it was or anything like that. But hit the ground running with them because one thing that I found
Can
with
I
the
ask if it was a biker organization or not?
it was, yes, sir. Yeah.
Okay.
Uh, so one thing that I found with them is there was a chain of command. There was orders, there was tasks that you had to follow, there was this, that, and the other, there was bylaws, there was, I mean, everything just kind of set up like
To
how it
me-
was in the military.
yes, a lot of
Dude,
them are.
yeah, I mean, I messed in with those dudes pretty quick.
Dude,
And
you're not the only one. So many veterans get into those groups. A
yeah,
lot.
and
A lot of my buddies are still in them.
yeah, and and I'm not saying they're bad, right? It's just because I was a part of let's just say a non 1%er organization. And they were pretty decent, right? But I kind of got bored with it a little bit. There was a spinoff clique of us in that organization that started hanging out with this other organization, right? There's a lot of verbiage that's used in the biker world. We were a bitch club, and I wanted to be a part of the main guys.
Gotcha.
And so I started hanging out with those guys a little bit more. Ended up patching over into one of the much larger clubs, and then I got invited into a lot of things, right? So even the 1%er clubs are not as bad as most people think, right? There's just small departments within those, right, that are kind of doing their own thing. But not a lot of people kind of know what you do, and it's kept like that for a reason, so that people won't get in trouble for your doings, this, that, and the other. Well, you got to be invited in. So I got invited in, and lo and behold, the job was to learn how to make what we called shake, right, which is methamphetamine that you make with a 2-liter Coke bottle and lye and stuff like that. And um, anyway, so I started doing that. Well, it's got a 3-day shelf life, and we were out pushing that, selling it, and stuff like that. Uh, well, I did so well with that because I was kind of able to, look at markets and push for territory and communicate. And I looked good, didn't get in trouble, this, that, and the other. So they started kind of invite me in deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper, right? So we ended up, doing a bunch of money laundering. I got hooked to my own product with, the dope, right? Um, and I got in so deep with that, you know. Um, Currently, I'm, you know, like out in bad standing, right? Which is a good thing. We've got a lot of. I'm not looking over my shoulder, waiting for a gun to pop you in the back of the head anymore because I came clean, right? And really and truly, I fucked up, you know. And so whenever I kind of came to truth with my internal troubles that they were seeing, I couldn't see. We've got a pretty good understanding. I just can't really go up
Wow.
to Oklahoma anymore. Stuff like that. Well, I saw something pretty bad whenever I was, on dope and whatnot that scared the shit out of me. Probably worse than anything that had, happened to me over in combat, even, dude. And so I said, "Fuck this, man," you know. And I started talking with a couple of brothers that I had, in the same chapter. And I said, "Hey, man, I'm gonna fucking pop smoke." And they said, "Well, you know what happens, you need to really be careful about what you do or what you say here." And I was like, "Fuck, man, there's no getting out of this." You know what I'm saying? And they were like,
Yeah.
"Well, we can vote you out, right? So you can get out like OIB, OIG, but you have to have a plausible reason." And my reason was I saw something that I didn't like, trying to explain that to your, upper leadership with a specific chapter or your national chapter or any of that stuff, man. Trying to explain that to them is like speaking to a brick wall. They're like, "Oh, suck the fuck up." You're going to probably see a lot
Yeah.
more of this shit, right?
Right.
Well, I knew I had gotten too far deep. Well, I ended up just popping smoke, man. You know, leaving colors and jumping states, man. Uh, well, what that entailed was I ended up coming home, right, to where I kind of felt safe
Right.
around my mom and my dad and stuff like that. Well, um, not only was I a drug addict, but I was running from someone and something that was a lot greater than they could ever fathom, right? When you're a part of those things, you really see how far stretched they are. They're in prisons, you pay people off, they're everywhere, right? And they're
Yes.
tied in with other groups and this, that, and the other. So I mean, I didn't know where they were, what was gonna happen to me. I just thought for sure, man, I was dead. My parents really didn't know what the fuck was going on with me either, and they thought it was more the war stuff. They knew I was a part of it, right?
Sure.
But of course, I call home to mom, and I'm like, "Hey, everything's great. We're just
Yeah.
ratting backs, and we drink at a bar, and this, that, and the other. I got a fist fight. Oh, don't do that again. Okay, mom. Stuff." And
Right.
I got home, and like I said, not only was I hooked to my drugs, but I was still making them, and I was in fear of their life, my life, stuff like that. So decided that wasn't a right fit, for me. And so what's crazy about it is I purposely nuked the family bridge of love, with an atom bomb. And I almost kind of like I felt better about them hating me, or so I thought, right? And they never hated me, right? But I was trying to make it to that so I could have an excuse to run away and never look
Right.
back. You know what I'm
I
saying?
I get that. Yep.
Yeah. And so I did, and they were just like, "Oh, you need help, you need help, you need help." I was like, "Oh, I don't fucking need help. I don't need this, I don't need that." Anyway, so they were loving, and I was like, "This ain't fucking working, dude. I got to get the fuck out of here," And so I did. Ended up becoming homeless for a couple years, man. Mm. Still had minor interactions with, you know, affiliates of the organization that I was a part of previously. So I thought it would be a good idea to kind of piggyback and join another organization that didn't like my previous
Oh
organization.
shit.
Yep. And, you
And you're
know,
thinking protection.
absolutely,
Yeah.
100%. Because I was like, it's gonna either end with me dead or it's gonna end with me in prison, right? And you want to get in
And
good with
prison
somebody.
could be dead too. I
Yeah,
mean,
100%.
because they
And
got
so
people in there.
and unfortunately about the whole situation, that's what my mindset was. And I was like, I gotta fucking figure this out, dude. I mean, but too, you got to play back to all of that military service and experience that I had, been a part of, like with that tie, sitting there with the uniform on and, serving my country and this, that, and the other to being where I was then. It really made me reflect on who I'd become. And in all honesty, man, I found this out later on by going through treatment. Dude, I was too much of a coward to kill myself because I was having such issues inside, my dome with finally processing taking life and maybe always being on the go and war being a comfort and all that stuff that I was putting myself in shitty situations to have the world to take me out. You know what I'm saying?
I do.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
and I was like, dude, I had a therapist tell me that when I finally went and got help. And I was like, fuck,
Yeah.
you know, I was like, you're right. You're 100% right. And anyway, so I don't want to blabble on and get lost
No,
here.
man. No, this is fascinating stuff,
Yeah,
dude.
so I joined this other organization, man. Well, they were a lot bigger in the dope scene, right? So my drug of choice at that point in time was methamphetamine. Not shoot it, smoke it, snort it, all sorts of stuff. And anyway, so they were real big into it. And they saw me as a valuable asset, so I kind of started getting deeper and deeper into that organization, right? Well, when you get hooked on them drugs, man, you don't really make the smartest decisions. It's not a smart decision to get hooked on the drugs in the first place, man. I tell guys that all the time. But sometimes, shit happens, right? Um I basically stole dope from one organization, stole the money from the other organization, and then took off running again, right? So I was
Holy
spun off,
shit.
yeah, man. I was spun off, not having a good time at all. With what I was doing, where I was at, I was kind of tired of seeing what I was seeing there because in those organizations, the one that I was a part of then was way worse than the one I was part of before, right? So I'm seeing, rapes happen, shootings, all sorts of stuff, man. But like, you kind of check your surroundings a little bit and say, like, what the fuck am I doing? This isn't a life I want to live for the rest of my life. So, but then you're high, right? So
Yeah.
you're like, hey, the right thing to do here is to get a whole bunch of dope so I can stay high and a whole bunch of money so I can go survive. You know what I'm saying? And
Yes.
that was my plan then. And so I did, man. Well, I had two major organizations that were looking out for me, and I wasn't going to run from Texas, but the one thing Texas has is a whole bunch of national forest. So I ran out in the woods, man. Built me little hooches and stuff like that, and still
That's where you were
shooting.
spending your homeless time?
Yep, yeah. Well, I mean, so before I kind of joined my second organization, I was underneath bridges in tent cities there in Houston, kind of all over the place. I would couch hop. People would let me in and stuff. I hate to say this even now, but even then, I'm like, I'm a veteran, help me, and they'd fucking help me all the fucking time, and I milked the shit out of that, but I was so fucking sick, dude. I didn't think that that was a bad thing.
Sure. At the time, you
Um,
don't.
yeah, like, I'm not a drug addict. I don't have any issues going on other than, me just being fucked up from war. That's kind of what I was like, the things I was tossing out, little ring toss, man, I was tossing out. And,
Right. Help me. I'm a victim.
yeah,
Yeah. You can rationalize it.
yeah, when I was causing my own self-destruction, buddy, I was pointing fucking fingers at everything that was happening around me that I
Right.
was putting myself in personally, right?
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
anyway, so I'd been homeless on and off then, but then afterwards it got real bad, man. And I realized living in the woods, man, without any, proper resources and being high was fucking horrible, dude. Um, I couldn't really tell anybody kind of what was going on because of that, and I have now. I've told, especially my family, right? And my closest ones and my wife knows and everything, but um I was so fucking deep into something that not a lot of people know about, right? That
Yeah.
trying to explain that was like, get the fuck out of here, you
Right.
know?
Yeah.
Because on the surface, man, I looked as weird as it sounds, skinny as a fucking beanpole, but I looked like I knew what I was doing, right? And I kind of looked in a sense put together. If you ask me how things were going, fucking great, you know?
Right. Yeah.
I got dope in my pocket, money in my wallet. You know what I'm saying? But in all reality, dude, I couldn't go anywhere. I was lost. I was covering up this facade that I fucking hated myself. I was, you know, couldn't tell anybody. I couldn't go to the fucking cops. What was I going to do? You know what I'm saying? You're dead then. Like I couldn't go back to my first organization and say, I'm sorry. I could, I couldn't go to the second organization and give them back the dope that I already smoked. I couldn't go to the other organization and give them back the money that I already spent, so I was in this fucking whirlwind of like, what the fuck am I doing? So I was like, all right, man, this is it. After quite some time, uh, it was approximately 13 months because when I went through therapy, a big portion of processing and getting over that whole experience, I had to kind of factor in the length of time that I was homeless in those woods. Fucking, I had just even great people helping me out then that would bring me out sandwich bread or like fucking bottled water or something like that, man. And cigarettes, right? And I'd fucking call them up and be like, hey, man, you know, basically meet me at this crossroad and this fucking dirt road of the national forest. And I'm walking out of the woods and getting shit and going right back into the fucking woods. And even then people were saying, you need to fucking help, you know?
Yeah.
And, in my mind, I'm like, nah, I got it. We're good to go. Uh, but it got so bad and I got so tired and, being alone in those woods, man, really being alone really allowed for me to, for once since I was 19 years old, to fucking degress and think about everything that I had gone through up to that point and
Right.
process and cry and fucking, you know, try to understand why had hate, to try to, you know, understand why I was in the situation that I was in, and what's crazy about it, man, is I was out there by myself. And I tell people this all the time that aren't believers in Christ, man. Um, Never once saw the devil, right? Never once saw the devil.
That's
But
wild. 'Cause
yeah,
you're in his domain this entire time.
yeah, right. But you know, I saw hints, right? I saw what the devil represents, but I never once saw the devil. But I shit you not, dude. I finally ran out of dope. I'm sitting there fucking laying down. And I had a little burner phone that I had. Well, there's a story that happened about 2 years prior to this. Mom, I resurfaced at my mom's house for a little bit to get some food and clothes and stuff like that. And my mom, it was Mother's Day. And my mom, I didn't know, right? She said, hey, it's Mother's Day. For Mother's Day, would you mind going with me to this veteran only, what they call a warrior group out here with the PTSD Foundation? And I was like, I'm not fucking going to that shit. She's like, please. Like, that's the only thing you have to do for me for Mother's Day. And I was like, okay. So we drove out there, man. And I sat through this stuff and, the spouses or the parents or whatever go like sit in another room and whatnot. I'm hearing all these guys talk about shit that happened to them overseas and kind of like, they were in an organization too. They're a drug addict and they're an alcoholic and this, that, and the other. And I was like, fuck, man, these dudes got some problems. You know what I'm saying? And,
Yeah.
and my mom's in the other room with the spouses and shit. And she got an earful, right? So she's like, uh, I can resonate with these people, right? Because I'm kind of going through the same shit with my son. So she got numbers and all this stuff. Well, anyway, the guy leading that group, man, I'll never forget him, man. His name is Sammy Askins. Still talk to that dude, but, he followed me out to meet up with my mom. And then we walked to the car and he hands me this fucking card and was like, if you ever want to fucking get your life straight, give me a call. And I was like, okay. And he's like, or we could go right now, and I'm like, I don't need to fucking get my life straight. You know what I'm saying? I mean, and keep in mind, this was just like a fucking 2 years or a year and a half, whatever, before I was homeless in the woods. So I was homeless and I'm doing all this shit. And I'm high as a kite, fucking sitting up at this warrior group, not saying a fucking word, right? And,
Right.
and my mom's just kind of like laying back. She set it up, right? And,
Yeah.
and he's like, are we can go right now? I'm like, no, we're good. And my mom's like, okay, well, you need to call him though. And I'm like, all right, yeah, I'll call him. We get in the fucking car, put the fucking card in my back pocket, and I said, okay, well, I'm gonna leave tonight. And it's so shitty in your addiction
It
because
is.
even then I was mad at my mom for trying to force me to do something because she saw something.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
How
And
dare how dare
yeah,
she try to give me
yeah,
help?
and I'm like, I put it in there. I'm like, okay, let's go home. I'm leaving tonight. This is fucked up, and all she's trying to do is fucking help me, right? Well, anyway, let's circle back to where I'm in the woods and um, my phone. And like I said, I didn't see the devil or anything like that. I'd always been pretty strong in my faith as a kid, but it was kind of like one of those forced things, right? So my parents went to church every Sunday. We were heavily tied in youth group, this, that, and the other. But I had lost my way hardcore, especially after, going over there and, you know, stopping heartbeats and stuff over in country. Well, I was like almost at wit's end, out of dope, out of money, had a burner phone, one bar left on that burner phone. Never
Shit.
had service in that area, and that was a good thing, right? Especially if you have a burner phone, they can't ping it. Um, I get service. The blue light comes on that fucking phone, right? Open up the fucking burner phone. I remembered Samuel Askin's number from
No
that
way.
fucking card an hour. I don't, to this day, I remembered Samuel Askin's number. And I don't know what made me do it. It was God. But I don't know what made me do it right then, right? I called and I said, he picks up, you know, I'm like, hey, are you still doing that like veteran Camp Hope shit? And he said, yes, I'm still doing the veteran Camp Hope shit. And I said, I'm ready. And he's like, okay, where are you at? And I said, in the national fucking forest, dude. And he's like, dude, that's, 6,800 acres worth of fucking land out there, dude. I don't know where the fuck you're at. And he's like, yeah, I don't know. He's like, what highway are you near? And I said, fuck, man, like 945, 946, like right in between that. There's a long stretch of national forest. And he's like, okay, we're going to come find you. I was like, cool. So hang up the fucking phone dies. I start praying to God right then and there. And I said, I completely surrender my life over to you, like 100%. No if, oof, makes me fucked. Sorry. If you can pull me out of here, you know what I'm saying? Because, or if you can help me get pulled out of here, right? I don't know what I said, but basically said, fucking save me. Uh, and if you save me, I'm ready to give my life over to you. You know what I'm saying? Well, 2 days go by and I'm sitting there, no more bread, anything like that. And I remember jumping. There's this fucking creek, dude. It was the San Jacinto River. Ended up kind of like going into the San Jacinto River, and I was washing off and whatnot, drinking some of that shit water, and I crawl out, man, and I'm laying behind this fucking tree, and all I hear is "die," and I'll never forget any of these guys, man. And it was this guy named Joel Ray Canust, man, and big motherfucker, probably like 6'8", 300 pounds, just fucking massive guy. Um, he stopped in the middle of Highway 945 and hollering my name. They were doing a search for 2 days. The second I got off the phone with Samuel Askins, he put a fucking bolo out, and all of their guys with the PTSD Foundation of America were out there. The veteran outreach guys were fucking looking for me all throughout the fucking 6,800 acre fucking national forest, right? And so, driving up and down highways, going down fucking dirt roads, pulling fucking people's yards. I mean, all this stuff, right? And I'm just like, what the fuck? Well, they were right at the brim of fucking giving up. Um, Joe Ray stops. And that was right. He said that Sam called him and said, hey, dude, we're going to have to fucking give up. This dude's gone. We'll probably report him to the cops and, whatnot. But all I hear is Tye. And I said, Yeah. He's like, "Where the fuck are you, dude?" And I'm standing behind that or sitting behind that fucking tree. And I mean, we're talking about 100 yards from the fucking road, you know? And you couldn't see me, dude. And so he fucking pulls it on, puts his fucking hazards on, and he's walking, big motherfucker, walking through the fucking woods. And, where you at? And the first thing that came out of my mouth is I yelled out, "Are you a cop?" He said, "No, motherfucker, I'm a veteran just like you, and I want to tell you my story."
Mm.
Anyway, so Sam didn't really, have much information on me at that point to tell him, like, what I had gone through or, who I was or anything. Yeah, I mean, they knew who I was, but not like my story. And this big son of a bitch sits on that fucking fallen tree and starts pouring into me about everything that he had gone through before going to this place called Camp Hope, right? Which is for just combat veterans based out of Houston. Um, and I'm listening, and it was kind of similar to the guys that were like, fucking talking in that warrior group. But I was ready then, and I'd
Mm.
had that conversation with God, 2 nights prior. I had prayed in between, 2 days and them searching for me and stuff too. Like, man, I mean, I know you heard me. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
where are they at? Or kind of what's going on? I called Sam. They're not fucking coming. Um, I
You've
was so,
surrendered.
yeah, evil. I was arrogant and, so prideful in my head. And I was like, God, I told you, save me. Well, Joel comes out there and he, talking about how he, and I, if you ever want to do a podcast with him, dude, great fucking dude. But, he's been in this field for many, many years of saving lives and veterans after he got help. And first time in many, many years, I didn't feel alone, and I felt somewhat kind of protected hearing his story. And he was like, "Hey, man, I know you're at your fucking rock bottom. You ain't got nowhere else to go other than, dead or, you know, people are looking for you, this, that, and the other." He's like, "What if I could tell you I could take you to a place where you can work on yourself and you can fucking find the hope and healing that you so rightfully deserve, but, you know, you can be safe." And, and he said, "Well, okay." And he knew what he was doing, right? He was like, "Well, how about I feed you?" And I was like, "Fuck. All right." I go up there, we get in this brand new Mitsubishi, man. Just bought it probably a week prior. And I sit in the back of it and I'm just fucking, I smell like shit. Hadn't showered in fucking forever, man. Swimming in that fucking water. Smell like dried goat and just horrible, right? He takes me to McDonald's and gives me a fucking 20-piece nugget. We're still kind of fucking talking back and forth, but I still had trust in him and I felt secure. Um, he said, "Well, hey, have you ever been to the VA?" No. He's like, "Well, I see you're hurt." And I was. I had staph infection. I had a knife wound in my right rib cage and, super skinny, had pneumonia, fluid in my lungs and stuff like that. Um, living out there in the woods ain't easy, but he said, "Well, let's go get you looked at." And he was doing these increments, you know,
Yeah.
taking me to these places, getting me closer and closer and further away from where I was. But he was getting me closer and closer to Camp Hope. When we get to the VA, I never gone to the VA before. Never filed, you know, service connection or any of that shit with them, man. And he takes me up there and they kind of patch me up and I still felt safe. I still felt protected. And he's like, "Okay, I'm going to ask you one last time. Do you want to start the recovery and the long road ahead for hope and healing? Because the grass is greener on the other side and I'm living proof. The story is not much different than mine, right?" And I'm like, "You're right." And he's like, "And I made it out." He's like, "So therefore you can too. You're never too far lost." And I was like, "Fuck. You know what? Yeah." And he's like, "And the cool thing about Camp Hope is you can fucking leave if you want to leave. If it's a bunch of weirdos or this, that, and the other, or if you don't fucking feel comfortable, fucking pop smoke. There's no gates and there's not, and they tell you that from day one. But what's wild about it is, Camp Hope is did save my fucking life. I went there from day one. I was there 9.5 months and it was the hardest shit I'd ever done in my whole entire life, right? Because I was finally facing my demons head on, right? I had nowhere to run anymore.
Is
I was
is that
finally
the is
processing.
9.5 months the typical span for or is it just
Yeah,
vary?
Well, because the way they have it set up there at Camp Hope is it's black phase, red phase. I want to say it's blue phase, yellow phase, and then green phase, right? So and you make these like so-called tick marks, right? So you achieve so much, and you get rewarded by moving into the next phase. It's a really cool system,
Okay.
but and it's for nothing but combat vets. Like if you don't have imminent, hazard pay, or if you don't have a National Defense Service, all that stuff on there, you don't go. So it's literally everybody that was just like me. And you can't bullshit, right? They're really good at fucking checking for
Oh yeah.
people lying, whatnot. But anyway, so I started going to this thing, and you stay in these things called bays, man. It was just like the fucking barracks. The way they had this thing set up it works to this day, right? Um, but I started meeting these guys, right? And I was like, fuck, man, like this dude's in red phase. I want what he has, right? Because he seems a little bit more at peace, you know,
Right.
and I'm
Yeah.
fucking torn up inside. So that's the goal, right? Yeah. And then you get to red phase, and you're like, that guy over there in fucking blue phase, he looks fucking squared away, man. I
Yeah.
want what he has, right? So you fucking work, 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 work. And throughout that, dude, you're doing, intense fucking counseling. You're getting back into church, you're doing stuff like that, but you're also to me, the biggest therapy was peer to peer, man. They had this thing called it was a fucking campfire and chairs around it. Everybody, all these fucking veterans are dipping Copenhagen and smoking cigarettes and stogies and shit like that. And we're all out there fucking talking. And you know what's crazy, man? Is kind of like what you were saying. You have a bunch of buddies that went into the 1%er world. There was a lot of motherfuckers that were there with the same exact story.
No
Small little
shit.
minute details that are different, right? But the same exact story that I had. And I'm like, this is fucking crazy, and you kind of check, right? There's a lot of guys that are court ordered there too, but you kind of check because we're still kind of sick at that point in time. But you're like, do you know this guy in the criminal organization world? Yeah, I know this guy. You know this guy? Yeah, I know this guy. It's weird, but you all kind of fucking start building that camaraderie again.
Right.
It's like how you did in the military.
Yeah.
You're all working.
And how you build in a biker club too.
Yeah, but you're all working through these things that are fucking hard, just like war, right? You're all coming out on the other side with little achievements, right? So like, hey man, I've made it fucking 2 months sober, right? I'm still here, you know? And keep in mind that gate's always open. The fact that you're still there day in and day out, because guys leave all the fucking time, and that can deter you. But I think wholeheartedly, and this is what I preach to guys now working for the hero program. I'm like, dude, if you want it bad enough, you're gonna fucking fight through hell to get it, right? I was at such a rock bottom, finally getting some clarity as to why I was the way that I was. And then I was starting to form, not, I didn't go back to the old Tye. I started to form a new me, right? And I like that new me, dude. Cause, this motherfucker was 100 times more squared away than fucking how I was in the military. This motherfucker was way smarter than I was as a kid, so I wasn't reverting back, right? But I felt so good about myself again, proud, because
Yes.
pride is egotistical. Being proud is how I felt when I was serving my country, and I was finally starting to feel proud as a civilian. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So regardless, I didn't have a real plan going forward, but I didn't need one. I was finally getting the degress, right? I was finally getting the time that I needed, and that's what I should have done when I got out, instead of hit the ground running. I was finally getting the time to process, you know, so many things, so many traumas that I experienced because, you know, believe it or not, killing somebody ain't fucking normal for us to do, right?
No, it's not.
And when you're 19 years old and you're doing it time and time again, day in and day out, at that point in time, you're doing your job. But when you finally have time to reason and think about it,
Yes.
in my mind, I'm like, I'll remove that motherfucker off the face of this earth, right? And
Yeah.
so God can never forgive me for doing that. So I thought, right? Um, But then I got to thinking about like, what if I would have met that motherfucker like, on the streets or in a bar or, something like that. I mean, you know, would I have been in his situation if somebody was in my backyard? 100%.
Right.
You
Yeah,
know what I'm
for
saying?
sure.
And
Yeah.
and I beat him to the trigger, dude. Because in war too, as well as like a lot of it's luck. Whoever gets that beeline first and whoever pulls the trigger first. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I've seen some great guys get shot.
Exactly.
You
Yeah.
know,
That's
Yeah,
when it all comes home. When you see the most squared away dude in your unit take one, it's
yeah,
like, "Oh shit, this is
yep.
real."
Like, fuck,
It yeah,
yeah, because I mean, and a lot of the guys get fucking hit with, sporadic fire and, you know, shrapnel and this, that, and the other, man. I mean, so, but anyway, I started thinking about all that stuff, and I got to think about it and have those hard times and feel emotion for the first time in a long time, other than hate, right?
right, yeah,
Um, and that was an eye opening experience for me because what was cool about it is I was able to do it with brothers, man, that were going through the same thing. And so when I would cry, you know, as a man, and actually feel okay about it, they're doing the same fucking thing. And I didn't think anything less of them, because
right,
before it's like, you're fucking crying, puss,
yeah,
like, suck it up. That's how it was ingrained in us. Right. But,
yeah,
it was the coolest experience. Well, anyway, so I made it through all the phases, got to the very end of it. Right. Well, the thing about recovery is you don't get a certificate and you're fucking healed. And you have to go through a pretty extensive, prolonged process throughout your recovery to understand that. Um, I see guys all the time that get that certificate and they're like, "Man, I can fucking conquer the world now." Ah, buddy, you need to slowly step it back into like normalcy, right? Um, because any little tiny speed bump that knocks you off your righteous path and purpose, man, can set you back immediately to
right,
where we were, right? Because it's almost kind of like, it still is fresh as being your normal.
sure,
Um, so I decided to, man, stay in it, right? I
yeah,
volunteered for Camp Hope. And for anybody listening or watching or whatever, man, if y'all go look up ptsdusa.org. It's got all their information on there, and they are a nonprofit, man. They do all this, free bono to the veterans that are struggling like me, and save lives. They do a lot of good stuff, man. Anyway, but yeah, donate $1, $5, whatever, and just go look. You don't even have to donate any money. Just go see all the great things they're doing.
yeah. I'll put a link, when I post this, I'll put a link in there for it as
Okay,
well.
but so I started volunteering for him for a little bit as a yellow phase mentor, which is basically like right before you graduate, you're in yellow phase, and you can transition over to green phase, which is you live on site, but you go find a job and you do this, that, and the other. They really do everything to kind of set you up so that when you do move out, you've got everything ready, right? So transportation, job, housing, this, that, and the other, everything's in line. So you just move out and you're in motion. But when I was volunteering, I was a yellow phase mentor, which was right before green phase. And these guys are about to graduate. And so it was a really humbling experience for me because, what's crazy is those guys were looking at me, how like I looked at guys first went in. So you see how kind of like that revolving door works. It's a really cool method on how they, you know, just make it happen there at Camp Hope. But I did that for about 2 years. And I was doing like some tattooing on the side and stuff. And what I was doing unknowingly is starting to push myself back out into the world, in a healthy manner, right? I met my beautiful wife, Sarah, uh, and her and I just really hit it off, man. If you don't believe that God puts people in your life at the right time, for the right reasons, you need to because it happens. And
No,
it
I
was
I
when,
believe it.
yeah, it was when I was like not looking for it at all. I saw
Yep.
her and really and truly, man, it was there at Camp Hope and it was during one of these, kind of like warrior group things, right? Um, no correction. It was during, NA, Narcotics Anonymous. And she was talking about it. Like she had just come. She's widowed, right? She had come from a relationship where her husband committed suicide because he had some PTSD and he was a Marine and stuff like that. And so here she is, a single mom, uh, doing the next right thing. You know what I'm saying? But also being a good mom, right? Uh, and I'm over here telling my story, like, man, I sound like a bitch. This lady's got all this going on. You know, uh, like negatively, right? But she's reaching out. She's finding support groups. She's doing this, she's doing that, but she's doing what she needs to do in order to heal properly. And I was like, I want some of that, not her, right? But like that aura. Um, so her and I started talking. She says she talked to me first. I call bullshit. I'll talk to her first. Um, you know, And anyway, man, she's just a sweet person, and kind of like with Joel Ray, man. I felt safe with talking to her. I felt protected. I felt, this, that, and the other, but I also felt driven, to even just be around her and stuff. So one thing led to another, man. Her and I, started dating. And, lo and behold, we're married now, man. We've been together for 5 years.
That's awesome.
Yeah, 2 kids. It's great.
Congratulations. That's
Yeah, man.
awesome.
I appreciate it. And, dude, just blessing after blessing after blessing. It happened after I had done the next right thing, but it all had to start with me processing and like finding healing and
It
surrendering my
had to,
life over to Christ, And I mean, and I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that for guys, man. I tell guys all the time because, I help now working for the Hero program, uh, and hitting the streets and the jails and prisons. And I've got a chaplaincy ministry that I'm a part of now. And I go out there and just basically do what I'm doing here, tell my story, you know? And what it's doing is it's not a who's got the bigger dick. It is you're never too far lost to find hope and healing, right? And you're worth the fucking fight. You just have to fight harder than you've ever fought in your whole entire life. Because man, for me, doing dope and doing bad shit was pretty fucking easy, right?
yes. Yeah.
Doing the right thing and being a great father, husband, functioning member of society. I'm not saying it's hard, but it's a hell of a lot harder than just sitting out there on my ass and smoking dope.
Right.
But it's
The
so
gra
much more.
the gratification's different.
Yeah.
You're not getting the instant gratification, but you're getting it in smaller
Yep.
doses over
Yeah.
longer periods of time,
Yeah.
and it's takes getting used to, but it's so
Absolutely.
much better. It's so much
Yeah.
more serene.
And, you know, and I'll tell you what, man, believe it or not, you meet a lot better people
Oh,
when,
yeah.
and so I've met some great people, man, and I fully focus my life, to serving the community. Right. I think that just like serving my country, man, serving the community and doing the next right thing and running with integrity and passion, but also utilizing my testimony, um, to relate
Yeah.
kind of,
Right.
because I'm still healing every single
Sure.
day. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
we will be for the rest of our lives.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
and I will never forget that, but I will also never forget where I come from, but you cannot build a better future living in the past tense, right? So, you remember that, but you have to continuously move forward because you have to know what not to go back to, right?
Sure.
And so I vowed, bro. I ended up actually finding the connection with the Hero program. Well, let me tell you a little bit about the Hero program.
Yeah, please do.
Okay. So we are a veteran only male and female mental health and substance use treatment facility in Opelousas, Louisiana. We only have one facility, man. We've got a wonderful staff, man. Techs, clinicians, ownership. I mean, from the top down, dude, just fucking great. A very powerful yet small outreach team that actually goes out there and runs with that integrity and passion. But we all have stories. We all have similar fucking stories, right? Because in a recovery world, what's crazy about it is to drop a lot of guards and barriers. You have to have some of that similarity. And what's cool is when veterans come to us and they're like, you know, I'm a piece of shit, right? Yeah, the same thing. I went out there and, you know, killed a whole bunch of people or saw my buddy die or this, that, and the other. Again, in order to drop those barriers, you have to have that similarity to sit there and for them to be like, okay, we'll work on it.
Yeah.
Like fucking sit down and process it. And you're worth finding your peace, if that makes any sense. So anyway, the Hero program, phenomenal. I've heard about them whenever I was working with the PTSD Foundation in Camp Hope, but I actually got tied in because I wanted to kind of move away, right? So Camp Hope was great, but I wanted to kind of do my own thing. And I knew that there were a lot of other organizations that were out there, you know, and I guess my point here is when I was at my lowest of lows, I didn't know of any of them, right? And so I was like, but I know they're out there.
Right.
You kind of learn about them whenever you're going through one specific treatment facility. And I was like, what if I sit there and empower, you know, all these other organizations to get down to the lowest level of the veterans that, they serve, right? So I was like, hey man, I kind of want to call the hero program, and I want to say, hey, are you guys looking for a guy like me for the Houston area to work for? Lo and behold, yeah, they were. So I went up there and took my piss test. It was the first test I ever passed in a very long time. And they brought me on, man. And when I was walking the facility, I saw, because before I took the job, I was interviewing them just like how they were interviewing me, right? Um, I wanted to make sure that the veterans were happy. I wanted to make sure their curriculum was great. I wanted to make sure that everything was, how it should be in that type of setting. And dude, I went around and I was playing volleyball with the clients and the veterans that were there, and horseshoes and stuff. And I was talking to them. They said, dude, I fucking love it here, right? And again, they were kind of telling me, they were in a different state, but they were telling me exactly what I was saying when I was at Camp Polk. They were like, it's fucking hard, right? But it's so worth it, and I was like, okay, this is the place, right? And what's great about it, and the reason why I specifically chose the hero program is, for one, they're not a veteran only, like, you know, what is it? They're not a veteran only like program within an organization, right? The whole
Okay.
thing is veteran only, so
Okay.
yeah, so we don't take like, civilians at all. We, this, that, and the other. So, and I find that very vital, because if you're taking a veteran out of his situation, he's going to feel most comfortable surrounded by nothing but veterans, right?
100%.
You know,
Yeah. Yeah,
that
the
period,
rehab
that
I
period,
went to was 100% veterans, and it
yeah,
made everything so much easier.
for sure. Like that
Yeah.
peer to peer, man. And then when you're going through the hard shit, they're going through the hard shit, you're going through the hard shit together. And hopefully you're building that bond throughout that's going to keep, because having somebody in sobriety and on the righteous path of hope and healing, man, is good to have whenever you're kind of struggling fresh out.
Yeah.
Um, so
And
it's good.
then
Anyway.
when you're surrounded by guys like yourself who've already been through this exact same
Yeah.
program or something comparable,
Yeah.
and they can see you as as,
It's a
so
light in the darkness, man.
yeah, for sure it
Yeah.
is.
And,
For sure it is.
anyway, so I've been working. Well, I got hired on. I took the job, um, and I think that in that I like the geographical change, right? So we handle transportation both to and from. So I network all of Houston, and then now I just took over the whole state of Mississippi. Um, so I go out there and I literally just ground pound, man. Work through ministry, go hit homeless shelters. I have to do a lot of like political networking and stuff like that in throughout the VA, because um, everything in dealing with our treatment is paid for by the federal government, right? So the veterans come out $0 out of their pocket. Um, and it's great. Dude, like hitting these tent cities and going and hitting these areas. I mean, does it test like me sometimes? Absolutely. Because these people are pretty, fucked up where they're at. But what's great about it is kind of like if anybody knows anything about sales and consulting, right? You take that big bag of no's and you just fight for that one yes. Uh, it helps me so much in my recovery to save a life, or and by save a life, they're doing the work, right? I'm just having them say, yes, I will go to treatment.
Yeah.
Cool. Get
Yep.
in the fucking truck and let's go right now. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like it's that, and I
You're
don't care.
you're living what I hear all the time in this program, as an AA member, that you can't keep, or you've got to give it away to keep it.
Yeah.
Right? And
Yeah.
that's what you're doing, and I know it's gotta be a struggle to have all those guys say no, but
Yeah.
that one yes has gotta
Yeah.
be incredibly rewarding when you see them
Well,
finish a
the
program.
reward for me comes from seeing them like day one, and then seeing them at day 180. You know what I'm
Oh,
saying?
yeah. Oh,
Like,
sure.
I'm sitting there watching them on the back end, bro, and they've got fucking weight on them. They're happy. They've got rekindled relationships. Man, they probably fucking spoke to their daughter for the first time in 10 years. Like that. To me, I'm like, what we're doing is fucking worth it, every time, because, you come out time and time again, man. I've helped guys, on the streets, man, and they'll say, yeah, but hey, I'm not ready. I got to tie up some things, like, okay, all right, well, I'll be back here tomorrow. I'm going to bring you breakfast and a Gatorade, and then we're going to fucking go. All right, cool. Come back and they're OD'd, right? I mean, I've
Oh,
seen
shit.
so many guys that, you saw the day prior, you come back the next day and they're fucking gray underneath the bridge. And the sad part about it is that is a fucking service member. That's a veteran, that served this fucking country, regardless of what era. Um, but they're dead and nobody's out there. So you call the fucking cops. The cops come out there. The fucking what is it? They just come pick them up. What is the mortician? Not the mortician, is it?
Corner.
Coroner. Yeah,
Yeah.
the coroner comes out and stuff. I mean, in my 3.5, 4 years of doing this with the hero program, man, I've probably had, man, probably 12 or 13 instances like that. Um, you know, where you talk
That's
to them
awful.
and you go, or you're just checking on them, and they're dead in a
Yeah.
tent. And, people have already come and not called the law that they're
Yeah.
dead. They've come and stole all their shit, and, so it's pretty tough, man. But the ones that you do save, it makes it all worth it because my lot in life now is to, just seek out one more. I think the good Lord gave me the vision that I needed to find my purpose. Now that I found my purpose, it's
Yeah.
all about service work, man. No
Yes, it
matter how
is.
hard, yeah, no matter how hard it gets, no
Yeah.
matter, how long it takes, dude, if I got breath in my lungs, dude, I'm just going after one more because again, I'm never going to forget where I came from, right? The biggest piece of shit, washed up fucking dude in the whole wide world, right? That had it all just fucking figured out still. They're all like that out there when they're high and they're, all this, that, and the other. But, you know,
God, man, I
like,
had no idea that you went through all of this.
yeah, well,
I
not
had
a lot of
no
people do,
idea.
man. I did some, I don't know, man. Uh, I did some reaching out like afterwards whenever I first started kind of, going through, cause that's one of your things, right? NA and AA and stuff, working your 12 steps, you've got to kind of make amends. And, I sure as hell wasn't calling a criminal organization and be like, hey, sorry, but, I was making amends with a lot of people that, I didn't necessarily hurt, but I just stopped talking to, because
Yeah.
I was so deep into my shit. And I wasn't going to be like, uh, I was embarrassed, man. I was wholeheartedly embarrassed of, reaching out to all you guys. And yeah, I'd post some dumb high shit on Facebook every once in a while, and people would be like, "What's wrong with you?" Like, "Ah, fucking nothing." But I was really able to put on this mask and hide it with, uh, you know, a smile and a joke or something.
Yeah.
But it kind of in that, it's weird. I became a second me because of trauma that I didn't even know how to fully process, or I didn't know how to understand at that point in time. And then the deeper that I got in that organization, I became so embarrassed of it because, I mean, yeah, you're proud of it. It's cool, every once in a while, like fucking, people watch Sons of Anarchy. And I mean, yeah, and there were some great fucking times in that shit, right? It's nothing like Sons of Anarchy, by the way. But there were some great fucking times in that time of
So how did you get out of that? How do you
okay.
not look over your shoulder today?
So when I was at Camp Hope, and this, I'm trying to think of how to word this. When I was at Camp Hope, there was one of the bitch clubs came, right? So, okay. So it's going to get kind of fucking deep, right?
Okay, go for it.
Yeah. So there was a bitch club of the initial organization that I was a part of, that came to Camp Hope, pulled his motorcycle in front of the sign at Camp Hope, took pictures of the sign at Camp Hope, and then revved it up loud enough to where the people at our programs, or no, our admin side came out, right? And so at that time, word had kind of spread, of what I had come from. So, and I mean, this was probably, man, I'm telling you, it was on a Saturday because we were able to order pizza and shit. uh, One of my mentors and brothers, Shane Hawthorne, ran up to me and he's like, "Hey, motherfucker, like just stay in here, you
Oh my
know?"
God.
And I was like, "All right." And anyway, the guy peels off. What that was a statement. We know where the fuck you're at, right? And I know exactly who it was. And I said, "What did it look like?" And blah blah blah. He explained the back patch and stuff, and what bottom rocker he had, and uh, stuff like that. I was like, okay. So when I got out, time had gone on past that, but I think it laid out the severity of my situation to a lot of the staff there, you know. So for the longest time, we were just going to keep it like almost kind of like with in-house protective custody type ordeal. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Um, because I mean, running and talking to, let's say, law enforcement, that's a bad fucking move, dude. Like, you might as well just sign your coffin right then and there if you're going to do that. So, and they didn't, they knew enough that, like the staff at Camp Hope, that would have been a bad idea, but they were still kind of pushing for it. You know what I'm saying? Because they were like, we can only do so much.
For you to talk to law enforcement, they were pushing for that.
Yeah, yeah. They were like, so what do we do here? And they were kind of pushing, but they don't, and the people that really didn't know the severity of it, a couple of guys did, because a couple of guys were kind of like, part of the same crowd. Um, at that point in time, whenever that happened, I knew in my head that it was just going to be every time I pump gas at a fucking gas station, I'm gonna have to look behind. I'm gonna probably take a fucking bullet, but I'd much rather take a bullet now doing the right thing than uh not, right? So anyway, graduated. Uh, there's a big thing in the criminal world, right? If you don't have papers to check, and they don't know where you're at, there's a lot of distrust there, right? So I graduated, and this was towards the tail end of me even volunteering for Yellowface Mentor. Um, I was out towards a town, and I saw a guy that I used to run with, and he was in a blue truck, and I was at a gas pump, and it's weird that I'm like, yeah, but the only person who knows it's my wife, so you can't pick me up. But he was at a gas pump, and we were kind of talking back and forth. And I saw another truck that pulled right beside me, and I said, "Follow us." And I said, "Oh,
Shit.
yeah." We went back to an undisclosed location, and there was a tent. Well, whenever things like this happen, normally it's kind of out in the middle of fucking nowhere, or you're out in an area that people just kind of don't ask fucking questions. You know what I'm saying? There's a lot of trailers. There's a lot of, Rand said, a lot of dope, a lot of cooking, meth labs, stuff like that. Um, So we go up, and I saw plywood and tins of
No.
sheets of tin that was all around this barbed wire fence that went around. And we pull in, and you know, for starters, they steal my vehicle at that point in time. I get off the vehicle, and I get hit in the back of the head so fucking hard. I'd never been hit that hard, and I fell to the ground. Right. Well, they strip you butt fucking naked, and they put me in a tent for about 3 days. Well, the one thing that they did that kind of fucked them up here. Okay. This is probably going to give away like the organization, but they had an acid barrel, inside the tent.
Yeah. Yeah.
They had a couple of people go in there, you're butt naked, and what they do, this specific organization, what they do is, have you ever heard of a hot shot?
No.
So they blow air and alcohol into your veins, and so it looks like basically you're just dying from a stroke, um, and then they put you in that acid barrel. So if anybody finds you, nobody's gonna fucking
Yeah.
things like that. I knew it was going to be like the tail end of shit. Well, anyway, when they stole all my stuff, they used my credit card. Sarah, at that time, we weren't even married yet. We were dating. Sarah went CIA like a motherfucker and hacked into all my shit and saw around where that credit card was used at. And so she kind of like pinpointed some things together by what I had said. And, okay, I'm going to tell you something real fucking crazy here. She had pinpointed something, gone on my fucking Facebook, found people that were kind of like, in a sense, like who I used to be tied to.
Your
Lo and
sketchy
behold,
past.
yep.
Yeah.
Lo and behold, the one person she fucking reached out to was there.
Oh my God.
Yep. And so the cool thing about it is that individual was a part of a different organization than my original organization. They were going to hotshot me, do all this type of shit. And finally, I had gotten to the point where I just said, I'm a fucking plant. What are you going to do? I'm already in a shitty fucking situation. I'm fucking tied up, butt naked, sitting in a fucking chair, and they weren't, been hit. Uh, when Sarah came, oh, hang on, I'm getting ahead of myself. And I said, what the fuck are you gonna do? And I said, I'm a fucking plant. So they leave, right? Sarah had reached out to that individual off of Facebook Messenger, and he was there. Sarah said, I'm fucking pregnant. She had just found out that she was pregnant right when all this fucking happened. So the guy, and I'm trying really hard not to say his fucking name, walked inside there and said, "We have a fucking pissed off pregnant person that knows exactly where the fuck he's at."
Wow.
Everyone leaves the fucking tent. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They allowed for Sarah to fucking come and pick my ass up,
No
and
way.
that's how I got put OIB, and that's how I fucking got out of it.
Holy
Because
shit.
one thing throughout the whole situation, throughout the 3 days is, yeah, they beat the fuck out of me. They broke both my ankles. They, I got, beat the fuck up pretty hardcore. Um, you know, and it's not like a jump out situation, right? They were gonna fucking kill my ass, but um,
Yeah, it definitely sounds like they were going to.
yeah, they were asking like where none of it made sense to them, right? I wasn't in jail. Why did I run? Who was I talking to? Everything, and I could see like from their eyes, yeah, this guy's fucking talking, right? But truly I wasn't, right? And I mean, I don't
Right.
know how many times I could have said that. I'm not talking to law. I'm not doing this. I'm not doing that. You stole my fucking bike. You did all this type of shit. Like they made my life a living fucking hell. They just hadn't finally gotten the information needed to put me in that fucking acid barrel. You know what I'm saying? Because if I did squeal, they need to figure out who I fucking squealed to. They need to figure out what information was leaked, all this type of stuff, man. It's interrogation to the max. And like you said, half of these motherfuckers are prior military,
Right.
I mean, they're not stupid people.
Right.
Um, and then when I fucking said I was a plant and everything just kind of lined up, everything just kind of lined up, with Sarah being pregnant and, with
What
Harley.
is what does that mean by I'm a plant? What does that mean?
So, I'm talking to the law.
Oh, okay.
You know what I'm
Okay.
saying?
That
And I
that
was
means
not,
okay.
right? So I was not, but I was like, no matter how many times I was telling, I mean, I'm telling you, man, this has gone on for 3 fucking days. No matter how many fucking times I told him that I was not, just get the fucking hot shot over and put me in that fucking acid barrel. You know what I'm
So you're
saying?
finally like, yeah, fuck it.
Done,
I'm talking to the cops. Yeah.
done. Like, cause
Yeah.
I can't, and what proof do I have? I didn't have fucking papers. I wasn't incarcerated. I was at fucking Camp Hope.
And they're not buying that.
No, you know, And or if I was at Camp Hope, like, what is Camp Hope? Blah blah blah. They're pulling shit up on fucking phones and looking it up and this, that, and
They
the other. And
they don't give a shit that you found God and you're
right,
rehabbed and
you know, and got help. They
right.
don't care. It's just like, but and that's the shitty thing about it, and why I'm still like OIB. You know, uh,
What does that stand for?
out and bad, right?
Okay.
So while I'm still OIB, like I legitimately ran because I didn't want to be a part of it anymore. But I ran because I was so fucking lost, and all I literally wanted to do was fucking go get help, you know? That's it.
Yeah.
And when it finally surfaced, it finally got to a fucking point, and if Sarah, I shit you not, and no matter how many times I would've said that, right? That I didn't talk to law or the fact that I fucking said I was a plant, that was it. You know what I'm saying? They immediately go, and I remember there was these 2 guys, and I knew them. Um, man, it's fucking so hard not to say, like names, but I knew 'em. They were sitting in there and it was just kind of like, you know, sorry, you know, like you're a fucking good dude, and they were saying that to me, like just let me get the fuck out of here. And there was another guy that came in and he was kind of like an upper echelon of one of the charters that were out in northern Oklahoma. He came all the way down for it. You know what I'm saying?
Wow.
And it took more than a day. So initially from the day, it's like, one of the representatives for the other organization was like, "Hey, we got him." And, and like he's a standing national for the other organization, came all the way down to where I was and, you know, proceeded to beat the fuck out of me and try to get the information in regards to why I left and this, that, and the other. Because I mean, from his eyes, everything looked great, right? I was so deep into running dope and making the money and doing all that type of stuff. And not only that, I crossed a certain fucking line that you're not supposed to fucking cross by mixing in with another organization. You know what I'm saying? There's bylaws and there's legitimate, verbiage that says don't fucking do this or you're dead. You know,
Right. Yeah.
well, I did it, and anyway, God, man, had Sarah go crazy, and I mean, most people back in the day, I would have been like, dude, she's psycho, bro, going through all my shit. But you know what, man, she truly loved me so fucking much. But
She
also,
saved your life.
yeah, but also, like, dude, I was gone. She had no idea where I was at, and she just fucking found out she was pregnant. You know what I'm
Wow.
saying? And and not only did I just evaporate from fucking thin air through kidnapping, right? But I was gonna die. She didn't want to. She was, oh fuck no, I'm not gonna be a single mom, dude. I'm gonna fucking find this motherfucker and at least let him know that I'm pregnant, right? She had no
She
idea.
already she
She
already
thought,
lost one. She's
right,
not about to.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so, but it's just weird how that worked out. And I was like, what made you call the guy that you called? She was like, I hacked in, saw where they fucking utilized your card. I fucking, called him on Messenger. Luckily he picked up and I just said, I'm fucking pregnant. He did, his own work because he didn't have to fucking say any of that, right? She didn't really fully know where I was. She knew the whereabouts, you know what I'm saying? But if they would have put me in that fucking acid barrel and buried me, they never would have fucking found me, right?
Right.
Um, he came in and said she knows exactly where he is. You know what
Good.
I'm saying? So it
Yeah.
was just this fucking whole just whirlwind of emotion. I started crying like a motherfucker and kind of over exaggerating, like, I fucking knew she knew where I was, and this, that, and the other, just to kind of rub it in. Well, she really didn't. Um, and the guy, again, man, it's hard not to say his name, but because as wicked as he is and as shitty of a situation that was, that guy saved my life. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
And him and I, we've never spoken. We've never done anything since then. And he had no reason to do that, you know?
Yeah.
Other than the fact that him and I had some very, very fucking deep conversations when we were like in that world, right? Like while we were doing some bad shit, like him and I were talking and he was just like, wow. And I told him about some shit that I did in the military and how why I'm, kind of running this, that, and the other. And he just we clicked in the darkest of times, and so to kind of answer your question, with that very long, end scale testimony, like that's how I got out without, you know,
God,
being
man.
behind box, man, and I haven't looked back since then. I've taken every day as a blessing. I've taken everything as a blessing, man. Always a shitload to bitch about, but I'm thankful for everything. You
Of
know,
course.
I'm thankful for the bitches too. You know,
Ty, that is the most incredible story I think I've ever heard. I God has been working in your life this entire time. This entire time. And at first I was going to say, man, you were so lucky. Luck has nothing to freaking do with it.
it's a good Lord, man, and but it makes my passion and my movement forward that much more meaningful and that much more, I guess, just driven, right? Because I got brought through all of that shit by the hair on my ass cheek, man, every single fucking time. But I did for a reason, right? Because I always think about every single situation that I was in, leading up to even where I am in my recovery. I should have died time and time, but I never did. And so when I go out there and I like talk to these guys, man, and it's set me up uh to be able to, in a sense, relate to absolutely fucking anything that these brothers and sisters are struggling with out on the streets right now, right? The
Yes.
drug addiction, the criminal organization, then, going to jail, the military service, absolutely everything. And so I think it's this plethora of, being able to relate, to drop
Yes.
those barriers, to finally get them to commit, right? Because I mean, I'm not saying that, you know, they've been approached a million fucking times, but I guarantee you a lot of people have told them to go get help and they just haven't yet, right? But if I
Right.
can sit there and say, look them in the eyes, man, and tell them the story, just like how I'm saying on this fucking podcast, and for them to sit there and finally be able to surrender and say, okay, I'm ready. Boom, let's fucking go, dude. Cause I mean,
I agree
that's,
with you, brother.
yeah,
Our story can be one of our greatest strengths in this
yeah,
program.
absolutely.
It's like sometimes we regret the shit that we've done and the
Yeah,
shit that we've been through, and those periods of time when we alienate our families and we,
yeah,
we close ourselves off to everybody. if we sit here today and look back on that, every fucking part of it had to happen. It
100%.
all had to happen to put us where we are today. Man, God, I'm just kind of I'm almost speechless now just listening to you. This is
Yeah.
you are 100% doing what God's plan is for you.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and I'm grateful for it, you know?
I can tell.
And well, I mean, just even finding my purpose in like helping guys and gals, man. Um, you know, it allows for me to continuously reflect on, how grateful I am for it. But um, I don't know, man. I don't know. You know, uh, but if you don't believe God's real, you know what I'm saying? In my mind, I'm like, dude, time and time again, man. And the second that I cried out and fully surrendered, I think what scared me away from him for so long was, dude, I'm too rough around the edges, man. Completely tattooed up, man. I curse a lot. I am how I am. I am who I am. So there's no way I can be like this holy roller Christian that goes in the church and, joins up with these cliques. But nah, dude, that's what God wants, bro. You know,
It is. I
uh,
think you're the face of this new generation of
yeah.
Christians,
Yeah.
you know?
And it's great because I go out there, man, and I am who I am, but I thank the good Lord every single day, right? And I never do anything out of spite. I never do anything to gain recognition. I never do anything to, boast myself, right?
Right.
My job now is to serve others in any which way I can, bud. And if that's, you know, networking underneath fucking bridges and going into tent cities and saving lives or fucking going to a soup kitchen, that's exactly what the fuck I'm gonna do, man.
Hell yes,
And
bro.
it's lined me up too to be the best dad that I can be for my kids, man. In a world so ugly, you know what I'm
Yes.
saying?
Yeah.
It's lined me up to appreciate my wife, right? Because I mean, she's a great fucking wife, and I can say that until I'm blue in the fucking face, right? But I appreciate how great she is. That's the difference. And she's my best fucking friend. She tells me when I need to shut my mouth. She tells me when I need to uh
It's good to
straighten
have
up.
people like that in our
Yeah,
lives.
bud, and I met her, and it's got everything, dude, that
Yes.
happened when I least expected it because it wasn't on my fucking time, right?
Yeah.
It was a story that was written out, you know, when I was still trying to fucking with my own pen write my own fucking story, dude. It was
Oh,
written a
yeah.
different fucking way, you know what I'm saying? And so, like, I would
Yes.
try to tear off, and I would get so fucking bad and tell the good Lord to take a back seat. He never left me, right? But I'd tell him to take a back seat. And then right there at the very end, when I should have fucking gone because I was, like I said, I was too much of a coward to kill myself, but I was right at that fine line of being dead. God was like, all right,
I
you know,
got you.
and it's just it's beautiful to really sit there and think about, man, but also live life, man, on the other side of that. And
You remembered that man's number. I mean, I know you didn't remember it. I know that number was put in your
yeah,
mind, but
yeah.
it's just that is
Because
just
dude,
an
even right now,
amazing.
even right now, I don't,
Yeah.
713 something, right? But I've got it saved in my phone now with his name, and I can, hey,
Right.
call,
That is
but it's
so
just it's how it
wild.
is, dude. And that burner phone didn't have fucking numbers saved in it, and it's like,
Or
but
service 9 times out of 10.
yeah, or how did everything line up to where my wife would get pregnant and she
Yeah.
would do that right before I got put in a fucking acid
Yeah.
bath?
There's no sense in trying to explain any of that.
Yeah, it
There's no
didn't happen a
sense.
day before. It didn't happen, how do we make it through fucking Slaughter City? How did we do this? That
Yes.
everything. And how
Yeah.
did I make it through fucking years of homelessness?
Yeah.
You
Bro,
know?
how did you not get killed by one of these 2 organizations?
Yeah. Stealing dope, robbing from Paul and giving a fuck. No, we're keeping everything, and
Yeah.
and running from it. And you know, but it was our God, man, and I'm so grateful for it, dude. I mean, again, even talking about it, I never talked about it to this extent. I'll go out and I'll fucking like
I'm
kind of
glad you did, man. This has
yeah.
been
No, I
absolutely
appreciate it.
fantastic.
I
Yeah,
appreciate it.
I told you before yesterday that this was going to be the last one I do for a few months.
Yeah.
It's hunting season. I got
Yeah.
to get my dog ready. I'm
Yeah,
going to go
man.
play for a while, man. But I can't think of a better interview
Yeah.
to wrap this season up, man. This is going to be
I'm
This has
so
been
humbled and
incredible.
grateful, man, and it's good to see your pretty face other than YouTube, you know what I'm saying? I mean,
Yeah.
yeah.
I feel like I've aged about 50 years. You look
Ah,
great, man.
dude.
You look
Ah,
great,
you
dude.
still look like you're in the fucking tank hats, but you know what I'm saying?
No thanks, man. I gave that shit up.
Yeah.
No thanks, man. Dude, I'm so glad that you're, I still, anybody that look him up on Facebook. He goes by Clark Tye on Facebook. You post all kinds of motivational shit, your workouts, you do all kinds of great stuff. Um,
Shit, Bo.
and man, I tell you, there's a lot of veterans I know just from being in 114 infantry with you, or 117 rather.
Yeah,
Um, those infantry guys, man, they really looked up to you, dude.
yeah,
And I think you are in the right place. You're doing the right kind of service and the right kind of work, right where you belong right now. Could you do the oil fields? Could you do ranching? Absolutely.
yeah.
But I think you're right where you're supposed to be. 100%.
You know, I fell into it through trial and tribulation, man, but it's, again, your purpose is kinda brought on to you by something that you enjoy.
Yeah.
I wholeheartedly, with all my heart and soul, man, enjoy serving others, dude, and,
Keeps us sober, brother. And it gives us some peace. Yeah, for sure. Ty, this has been fantastic, man. I
hey,
appreciate you sitting down with me. I'm gonna really quickly edit this daggone thing and I'm gonna put it on. It'll be on today.
I dig it.
It'll be on YouTube and on podcasts. And then I'm gonna Google the so Camp Hope. I want to put a link for that.
Yeah,
And
it's,
then they get
PTSDusa.org,
PTSDusa.org.
USA.org, yeah, and then,
Okay.
ours, do you have our website?
Hero program. I'm thinking I got a hyperlink to it, but go
Okay,
ahead
yeah,
and
yeah.
talk about that real quick. Is it just if you Google hero program, is that going to get you there or no?
So, man, so it's Hero Program NB, November Bravo, like as in New Beginnings. So
Okay,
heroprogramnb.com. Um, once you do that, man, it'll just pop up and you're good to go, dude. Uh,
fantastic,
yeah,
dude. That's great, man. Just pushing these kind of resources out to guys.
for sure.
My hope has been since the first day because I was listening to podcasts when I was laying on my couch and didn't
Yeah,
have the courage to shoot myself, but I
yeah,
did not want to live
yep,
anymore.
yep.
And I started hearing
Hit it,
podcasts
bro.
of veterans that were getting up off their ass and getting help.
Yeah.
And that's what inspired me. And I think anybody that listens to you today is gonna be inspired as well because you are 100% an inspiration to
Hey,
all
man,
of
you
us,
too,
man.
Boa. And I love you, man. I appreciate it.
Love you more, brother. I appreciate you, man. You'll see this online today.
Sounds good, brother.
Take care, man.
All right, you too, Bo. Bye.
All right.